Greetings, friends and family, and welcome to the Spectre of Truth Show. And I am
Black.
So let me first start by saying thank you to everybody that has been participating and has stayed with me so far to check out the videos. The feedback that I've been getting has been great, and I really appreciate that. And it's a lot more coming to you. Just hang in there with me. And as we only at 4 videos so far or something like that, so and I mean, it's already, I'm starting to get some feedback, so that's like really encouraging for me, and I'm like real happy to see it. And so what's coming down the road, we're going to be, I got a lot of things going on in the background that you can't see. It's a lot of stuff coming your way. It's a lot of benefits that you're going to be able to partake of as a part of my membership and the different projects that I have going. So what's happening is, and I don't want to put it out there just yet, but what's happening is I'm kind of going into this kind of, it's almost like Legos, man, so I put this together, put that out, like a kind of a core, kind of a foundation, and then I attach something to that, and then put something else on that, and so we building this thing up. So all you see is, like right now, it's just these videos, and it's, he only got a couple videos, but there's some things going on behind the scenes that it's really going to take it to another level. So I'm not ready to put that out just yet, but it's some stuff coming, and you're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be real cool, and we're really going to take this thing to some levels. So just hang in with me, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So it's not far behind. It's coming. So yeah, just give me a minute, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So we only have 4 videos so far, and so yeah, so there is more coming. Another announcement. I do have my Patreon page set up. So anybody that wants to support this work, wants to see more stuff like this going on, wants to contribute, is tied in with PayPal. So if you want to help from that aspect, you can. And I really appreciate anything. I don't care if it's $1, $2, whatever you can give. I really appreciate it, and I'm going to put the links to the page, to my Patreon page, will be in the description box under the video, so you'll be able to get to that through there. So I really appreciate that. I think I'll also flash it up on the screen, because people have had trouble trying to find the description box. They didn't even know it was down there. So I'll put it up on the screen too, so you'll be able to check that out.
Be sure to pop over to audible.com and check out the new audiobook from Black Fusion Studios titled Paper Thin. It's in full production format, which means it's not just narration. You can actually hear the sounds of what's going on around the characters in the story, which makes it far more immersive than just talking. In addition, while a movie is only 2 hours long, Paper Thin is 3.5 hours long and also has an ebook available on Amazon.com with custom art and extended audio content. A link to the audiobook can be found in the description box below. Here is the trailer for Paper Thin.
When you're attacked, you try and fight back. But what if you can't see who's attacking you?
There it is, Mommy. See?
What do you do when your attacker is something from the other side and is ripping out your soul?
Oh shit, what the fuck is that?
Paper Thin. Now available on audible.com in full production cinema format. Extended ebook also available. Produced by Black Fusion Studios. Narrated by GT Hawks. Order yours tonight.
But other than that, today we're going to do something a little different. And this is something that I'm really, truly excited about. I told you way back on the intro video that I was going to be kind of shifting off and going into some different areas and things that, we've been doing a lot of, like I said, socio-political type talk up to this point. But I'm going to have a lot of other little kind of thrown in things in there that you may not have. It's like, wait a minute, that don't go with that. What's he talking about? But so today is going to be one of those days, one of those kind of weird days where it's like, what's he talking about? But then you'll see where I'm going with it. By the time we get to the end, you'll understand what's happening with this. So it's going to be a little different today. This is going to be one of them little kind of offshoot type videos that it's going to trip you out for a minute, and then you're going to see what I'm doing. So this is I don't know how many people are going to be able to relate to it. If you try to relate to it, you will relate to it. But it's a matter of introducing new things to people, new content that they have never been exposed to before. Hollywood is scared to death to do it. That's why you keep getting Batman 1, Batman 2, Batman 3, Superman 1, Superman 2, Superman 3. That's why they keep putting the same old out there, because they say, well, we find something that works and we just stick to it and that's it. They're scared to death to put something out there that you're not familiar with because they're afraid that you're going to reject it. But I think people, they don't give people enough credit for being able to adapt to new information. Yeah, you're going to have an audience, certain aspect of your audience is not going to be able to relate to a lot of new stuff, and I don't want to hear that, I don't want to deal with that, I don't want to be a part of it. So you might lose, let's say, 25% of your audience just by changing format. Okay, but then you may also pick up an extra 30 or 40 or 50% of people that didn't even know that you were into that type of thing. So let's say if they had more black characters in their stories going back years ago, then today they would have more of a loyal black following, which would have given them more income in the long run. It may have alienated some of their audience in the beginning, but it would have given them more in the long run. So that's kind of what I want to do today, is to throw this kind of like little curveball in there, and it may trip some people out, but like I said, if you hang in, you'll see where I'm going with it. So this kind of stuff is kind of what causes me to, like, I don't know, see, like, I'm one of those guys that I have a hard time talking to a lot of different people, all right? Because to be perfectly honest, I really don't have any idea what a lot of people are talking about, all right? I don't watch sports, so I couldn't tell you who won the game. I don't know who scored the most points, and I couldn't care less. I've never been into sports. I tried to watch it back when I was preteen. I tried to look at some sports stuff. My parents up here flipping out. Oh, the game is on, yeah, the Super Bowl, they're rooting and whatever for whoever they were into. And so I said, damn, they were so excited and hooping and hollering. I felt like I was missing something. So I tried to turn it on. My little spot was down in the basement, right? So I tried to turn it on. And I started trying to watch, see, back then they'd have, I don't know, I guess they still do it today, but they'd have 2 or 3 different games playing at the same time. And I'm flipping channels, and they all looked exactly the same to me. I couldn't tell one from the next. So I'm like, what channel you watching? Channel 3, whatever. So I turned to 3, okay, so they got some game on. So they cheering, and I'm trying to get into it, and I really couldn't understand what they were so excited about. It just looked like a bunch of guys running around chasing the ball around. Okay, it's a football, is what they were looking at that time. So I changed the channel to a different game, and it looked exactly like the other one except the colors were different, the uniforms were different. I flipped to another game, and again it looked exactly like the other ones, but the uniforms were different. And I'm like, what are they excited about? It didn't register. I just couldn't get it. I didn't understand what they were so excited about. They run around chasing this ball. So I thought maybe there was something at the end, is that at the end that the players get to be multi-millionaires, $1 billion. What happens at the end? Maybe they get something at the end, because they were breaking legs and breaking arms, and there's got to be something, a purpose to this, why they're so into it. And I asked my dad later, I said, what happens at the end of the Super Bowl? He said, what do you mean? I said, well, what do they get? What's the end? Why do they fight like that so hard? He said, well, you get a ring, and the city will get maybe the team will get some kind of trophy or something like that, and you get bragging rights. Everybody's bragging that their city or their team is better than somebody else's. And so, okay, well, so then what happens next year? You said nothing. They start all over again. What do you mean you start all over again? Yeah, they go back and they start all over, and somebody else tries to win the next time. I was like, that's it? He's like, yeah. I never even tried to watch another game after that. I couldn't, I don't understand that. That doesn't register with me. So when I go out and around different jobs, wherever, hey, did you see the game last night? No, I didn't. You didn't watch the game? No, I'm not into sports, man. No. And and they were like me, really dejected. Okay. For a while, I even started, because I got so tired of people asking me, I started faking them out, trying to fake out. Hey, did you watch the game? Like, yeah, that was something else, man. Yeah, did you like that? What about that throw from Johnson? You see that one throw? Yeah, man, that was crazy. Yeah, he did. And I had no idea what they were talking about, but I was playing along, and they absolutely thought that I knew what they were talking about, and I had no idea. And I was just, yeah, that was great, man. The way he did that, man. Yeah, I couldn't believe he made that catch. You're like, yeah, that was crazy, man. And we're sitting there having a conversation, and I don't know what he's talking about. So again, like I said, that to me, and it just made it more solid in my mind that I'm not interested. So I don't even do that anymore. It takes too much energy. So at this point now, I didn't see it, and then I just kind of cut it short because I just don't know what they're talking about. So, yeah, just that alone will alienate you from a lot of people. I don't know. Even with black movies, you watch the black movies that come on. I'm not into black movies, and they're very stereotypical, and so there's a lot of insulting content. To me, it's insulting. I'm not watching it. I can't relate to it. I'm not into it. I don't. The slave movies, the gangster movies, the black people running around shooting each other up, gang bangers and stuff. I'm not. That's not me. I can't relate to that either. So I don't watch any of that. Comedies, everybody's running around cracking jokes and tripping over their own feet. I can't get into that, So again, so anybody that really is into that, that's their thing, then we're probably not going to have a lot to talk about, So even the music, I can count on one hand the modern musicians that I like and that I can get into. It's just not that many, I can count all the musicians that I like on one hand with fingers left over. I'm just not into a lot of that kind of thing today. So, now when I was younger, it was different, So, yeah, I used to watch Martin and Cosby and Sanford and Different World. I saw all of that. And it was cool for the time that I was watching it. But that was decades ago, man. And I, for one, can't just keep watching the same shows over and over for decades, trying to relive my past. Wallowing in nostalgia and memories. I just can't do it. And, listening to the same music over and over, like, damn, 40 years of Earth, Wind, and Fire is enough for me. Yeah, it was cool, great, fantastic music. It was, like, there's a lot of fantastic new artists out there now if you just want to get into music. There's other stuff that I could listen to. There's other people that I'd rather hear. But again, even just to sit and listen to music all day, after a few minutes of that, I'm done with that too, So I don't know. I'm like, let me go see what else is going on. Let me go get this going. Let me do that. And, music, even just a project like this, even just doing this, for me, if music playing in the background would be a distraction for me, So I can't get into that on that level, So if I'm out maybe driving somewhere, if I got somewhere to go, I might turn some music on for a little while, But again, just, not just like that, just to have it on. That's just me. So I do have a ton of old stuff on my iPod. I have an iPod, and I got all my old favorites on there and stuff like that, but I just rarely listen to it anymore. So for me, it has to be onward and upward, what's new, what's hot, what's fresh, what's the cutting edge, and that's how I do it. I try to keep it moving. So I just had got to a point where I just really couldn't connect to the old stuff anymore. Once in a blue moon, I might come across an episode of Sanford and Son and laugh at something for a minute, and then I'm gone. Yeah, I can't even just sit and watch a whole episode. It's just, like you sit and watch it like it's new and just focus on that. Like, I don't know. I remember long ago I saw an interview from Damon Wilson, who played Lamont. And I think he was on the Jay Leno show, if I recall. So Jay asked him, could have been David Letterman, but I think it was Jay Leno show. And Jay asked him something to the effect of, if he ever watches any of the old episodes of Sanford and Son. This is Lamont who's talking to, Damon Wilson. And I was shocked because Desmond Wilson, I think it is. Desmond has said that he actually blasted the show, and I was shocked because I didn't know he wasn't into it. I didn't know he didn't like his own show. He said that he never watches it, and he never even talks about it because it was nothing but utter foolishness. Jay even was like, "What? Whoa, what do you mean?" He was caught off guard, and Desmond said that he would never do anything like that again. In later years, I watched documentaries that went into some of the show secrets, because I was confused when he said that. Why did he say that? Why didn't he like it? He didn't go into details at that time. But, so later on I saw these documentaries, okay, they went into the show secrets. I didn't know that the show had secrets. And apparently they had Desmond and Red Fox in a dressing room that had literally used to be a janitor's closet. So that's where they were doing the show from. They go to get changed and get set up for the show, get between sets or whatever, and they went into like this janitor's closet to get changed. Okay, they were basically severely underpaid and overworked while the show was being produced, and so the producers were raking in all this cash because it was a #1 hit show. But they weren't getting anything near like what they should have been getting as far as big time #1 show actors. Okay, they weren't getting it, so this was a horror show for them. So yeah, it was just a big mess behind the scenes. But we don't, as the audience, we don't really care about any of that because most of us have so much nostalgia attached to it at this point that it represents basically a huge chunk of our childhood, and we associate it with nothing but fun, family, joy, laughter. And most of us have lost family by now, but when we watch that show, it instantly takes us back to a time when our family was still alive and we were all living together and everybody was basically happy, and these were the good old days, these were good times. So I get it, that show takes you back to that, I get that, but it's an illusion. It's a fleeting moment that passes as soon as we turn the show off. So to resolve this problem, many of us have decided not to turn it off. We'll keep those old shows playing 24/7 and allow ourselves to pretend that we're still in 1985. See, they got the marathons that come on now on cable. You can just go watch the Martin Marathon or the Sanford and Son Marathon, and it'll be 8 hours straight of nothing but back-to-back episodes. And people will go and get snacks and chips and food and swear that they are not going to move from that spot until they get to the end of this marathon. And if people really do that, they got the weed there and the drinks and the liquor and the alcohol and and they just lose themselves out of time, and they feel like they're still back in 1985 and remembering their mom, their dad, whoever was alive during that time, and they try to enjoy it, but this really isn't a good thing. It might feel good, but in reality, you're destroying yourself because you're not putting enough time and energy into your present plans you're not putting enough time into your present and plans for your future. While you got to plan for this, for the future here in the present. You got to prepare for it now, and you can't do that if you're stuck in 1985, 1977, 1976. You can't do anything if that's where your head is and your heart is really at. Okay, you got too many divisions in your psyche going on. You're divided. So living in the present and planning for the future takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of finances, and it takes a lot of energy. You want to get a new car, a nice new car down the road, and maybe get you a nice new house. Well, you got to start planning for that now, because it's going to take a lot of money. You got to have down payments. You got to figure out where you're going to go. Man, you're talking about being online researching that all day, every day for months. That's just where your time and energy has to go. And so by the time you finally get a chance to move, you should have had almost 6 months to a year invested in researching all of this before you went and put a dime into any of that. You should know where you're going. You should know the crime rates in the area. You should know the tax rates in the area. If you have children, you should know the school systems, the bus routes, where's the stores, the supermarkets, and all gas stations. You should have already scoped all of this out before you pack your first bag. Okay, so that takes a lot of time. But if you're stuck in 1985, you can't focus on any of that. Okay, so you have to let that past go, and you have to use that energy for the present. All right, and if you ever look at yourself and find yourself stagnating, like, man, I'm still the same thing every day, man. I'm still here. What's going on? How can I change this? How can I break out of this? This situation I'm talking about might be part of your problem. All right, so you need to put some thought into that, because only you know what you're doing with your time. All right, now I want to say first with all of this, as the information I'm about to present to you, my 5 top badass TV series. I should have said this earlier, but I'm saying it now. That's where I'm going with this. You saw it from the title. My top 5 badass TV series. Okay. Now, I'm not getting paid to do any of these endorsements for these people. I should be, because I'm about to blow them up. The ones that I'm putting out there. I should be getting something off of this, but I'm not. Okay. So I just want you to know that the information I'm giving you it's from the heart. It's not from the wallet. This isn't anybody putting me up to this. So you'll see when I put it out to you. You'll see the reason for it once you get it. Okay. So these shows in particular that I chose, I just find them to be enlightening, inspirational, and absolutely exceptional. And yet I know very few people, black people, who even know that they exist. So as I got more and more disgusted by the basic trash that's on TV and just basic stuff that everybody is watching, I just kind of pulled away from it, and I just got disconnected from a lot of stuff that's on there. And I started watching more and more shows online. Some of them weren't even from this country. Okay, so this was so much better for me, because not only did they not have commercials, but there also was tons of shows. It's like it was so much to choose from. If you're into anime, this is like Japanese animation. You get online, and it's so much. You can't even watch it all. It's so much. You can't even watch it. It is. You watch this show, and in that one series dealing with Japanese anime, it has 475 episodes in that whole series. It's like, how the hell do they even do that? It's mind-boggling, but it's more than you can even watch. It's almost overwhelming once you get off of your basic cable package. All right, once you turn off your football games and your comedy specials, your Sanford and Son and everything, and you start getting into a more global type of environment, it's almost overwhelming. For me, this was better, and so I started leaning more in that direction. Okay, so some of the stuff I know you will have never heard of. All right, just like at that time, I had never heard of it. Okay, but I'm sure that you all know that if you want something that you've never had, you have to do something that you've never done. Okay, so this will help get you onto that track. If you've never watched any of this, you've never heard any of this, one way to break out of, if you feel yourself in a rut, one way to break out is to follow along with what I'm getting ready to tell you. Get into some of these shows, get into some of these things, and that alone can help pull you off into a direction where you've never been before. Okay, so I began to diverge off deeper and deeper into these shows once I realized that they were there. Once I realized how deep they were, once I realized how heavy they were, I just kept going into it, and it was just like, oh my God, these shows were talking about things that we never hear about. I was just shocked. Some of them really go into the outer edges of your topics, of where you could, things you could possibly talk about. These shows go beyond where you would think you could possibly talk. So we're talking about space exploration, time travel, aliens, alternate dimensions, all of that. And when did we ever talk on those levels? When did we ever talk about any of that stuff? Okay, so wait, so you mean that, you know, this should kind of trip on you. I'm gonna trip you out with to check this out. So you mean this is what went through my mind as I started watching all of this stuff, and I'm asking myself, so wait a minute. You mean the predominantly white shows are dealing with space, science, aliens, technology, time travel, and futuristic concepts on a level that we have never been exposed to before, not even in school. Not even if you go to college, you don't go into those areas, okay? While the predominantly black shows are dealing with goofiness, foolishness, sorrow, pain, slavery, and maybe some singing and dancing. What the hell? And we've been sitting there for decades just laughing along and enjoying the ride. All right, now, some of us are at a point where we can look back and see the problem and like kind of jump off at that dead end loop of nothingness. We see it, we recognize it, I'm done, and they're gone and they get off of it. Okay, and that's kind of what happened with me. But I just don't see a lot of people going. I know some people have. More people have canceled their cable and turned off the TV today more so than ever before in history. Okay, there was a time in the 50s and 60s when having the TV was just such a treasure and a pleasure and a gift, like a gift from God, that if you finally got a chance to turn it on and watch something, you left it on all day if you could, it felt like you could afford the cable, the electric bill. All right, they didn't have the cable back then, but if they had the electric bill, it was just like, yeah, I don't want to run my electric up, I don't want to burn out my TV or whatever, so they might turn it off. But when it was on, it was just heaven. Today, everybody's trying to cancel it, and they want to move into higher levels and do different things. Okay, so I want to try to show you how to use that TV to take yourself to those higher levels. You don't have to necessarily turn it off, just use it to get onto a higher vibe, a higher wave point. That's what I want to show you how to do today. All right. So when you do that, when you jump off of that loop, all right, then it starts to dawn on you, because now you can think clear. Then it starts to dawn on you that these shows are just one part of a greater whole. I want you to understand this now. So when you watch these shows, it's different. Wow, I've never seen anything like this, never heard anything like this. These shows are just one part of a greater whole. Like, okay, it's like if somebody liked the tires on your car. You got the new rims on there, man, it's bad, it's just slick, but wow, man, they're looking at the tires and they're just like going, man, you know, checking out your rims or whatever, you know. Oh, that's bad, man, that's bad, you know, and they, check this out, and they just all down into it, right? Oh, yeah, that's cool, that's bad, you know. So you might say, hey, I know you like the rims, but did you know that they're actually attached to a whole car? Then they might step back and say, oh, wow, yeah, that's a nice car. Now they're looking at the whole thing. That's a nice car. Then you let them know, yeah, but you just looking at the outside. Check out the inside. Oh, The inside is oh, I forgot, and you try to show them the extra now you're showing them the same thing, but you're showing them more of it, and then you're looking at it from different angles, from the outside, from the inside, pop the trunk, pop the hood, so it's a lot. It's not just you just looking at the rims, okay? So now their mind is blown, because damn, there's an inside, there's a trunk, there's a hood. They hadn't even contemplated all of that. Well, these different shows, they're like that. They are one part of a greater whole. And when I stepped back and I realized that the shows were also connected to different video games, we never heard of the video games. They don't have commercials for them. There's no advertisements for them. But they have these games out here. It's called high-end gaming. And these shows are essentially connected to the games. And also, then once you start looking at the games, then you start paying attention to different movies. Now you start watching different cartoons, and they don't even call them cartoons when you get to that level. They call them anime or animations, as I was saying. All right. Once you start getting onto that level, you start eating different food, and then once you have that, then you start using different tools around the house, and maybe you even start using those tools to start building things. Now you're going into that level, okay? Then you start wanting to take it even higher. Now you want different computers than what you've seen before. People that are on these levels don't use the little $300 laptops from Best Buy, okay? If that's all you got, that's what you got. But there are $50,000 super systems out there. What are they doing with those? You didn't even know they existed. Somebody knows that they exist because they're selling them, and they're making millions and millions of dollars off of these systems, okay? What are they doing? And that's the part that you've never been told about, okay? So in other words, I realized that these TV shows were just really a small part of a whole super fantastic other subculture. And it's all been going on right under our noses. It's been going on for decades, years, okay, possibly centuries. It might even go back before America was even founded. But it's a subculture. It's a whole existence, a whole lifestyle that's been going on, and we didn't even know it was there, okay? So how do we miss that? Why did we miss it? How do we miss it? How can you just miss a whole culture that's been in existence all around you for your whole life, and you just never saw it? It's always been there, you just never saw it. How do you miss that? Okay. It was because most of us were still focused and obsessed with that little rut that we've been in, okay, through our whole life, watching the same shows over and over. You go get a video game. Oh, I love Madden, yeah. So they go get Madden, and they're playing Madden over and over. They're eating the same foods over and over, shopping at the same restaurants, all of that, okay? I can't even blame anyone else for this, because this is equivalent to a form of self-imposed isolation, all right? Anytime you keep doing the same thing for over 40 years, over and over, that's on you, okay? That's your choice. I know it's self-imposed because I personally have tried to talk to many people about all of this over the decades, maybe hundreds, thousands, maybe tens of thousands. And if you could count all of that time spent in chat rooms over the years, 50 people in the room at a time, and maybe they have 8, 9, 10 different rooms. There's 30 to 40, 30 to 50 people in each one, okay? And not one was interested in any of this information, for you go weeks, months, and maybe you might find 1 or 2 people that you could have that conversation with, okay? But for the most part, the rest of them, man, go ahead, nobody's trying to hear that, okay? And that has happened so much, that over and over and over, that's kept happening, but really, when you meet those 1 or 2 that are awake and aware enough that you all can have that conversation, it actually makes it worthwhile the weeks and the months that you spent kind of trying to find them. And when you find them, they're so cool and it's so much fun talking to people like that it makes it worthwhile. So that's kind of why what made me hang in there with it. All right. So Yeah, like you have to. You got to keep in mind, like nobody forces all of these actors and actresses to play these roles, you know. So they get into these little comedies, these little goofy shows, but nobody made them do it. So this is willful. This is they know what they're doing. They sign up for this. Okay. So they get on the show and they're singing and they're buck dancing all over the screen and hopping around and we watched this. It's just like, you know, it was entertainment for us. We didn't think anything about it, but it was actually very insulting. We just didn't know we were being insulted. So let me ask you this. Check this out. Have you ever really stopped to think what these shows are really about? Have you ever really paid attention to what's going on in the show as opposed to just laughing at the jokes? Okay, I don't think that a lot of people have ever really took and dissected it like that, or you wouldn't watch it. Because if you really look at it and dissect it, let's just take Martin for example. Okay, that show is about a black man who has a job as a radio talk show host. This is Martin's character on the show, right? But his position and popularity has gone to his head and turned him into an arrogant, egomaniacal jackass. Okay? In almost every episode, he invites his friends over. And then the whole time they're visiting him, he just sits there insulting them, telling them that they don't have a job, asking them how much money do they make, and dogging them out for their lifestyles and talking about how ugly and fat their girlfriends are. Okay? How many times did he tell Tommy, you ain't got no damn job, man. You don't have a job. You ain't working. All right? How many times did he tell Cole, you stupid, Cole? All right? And Pam would come over to see Gina. And Pam was hot, right? I was shocked. I didn't understand why he was ripping on Pam so bad, talking about how ugly she was, because Pam was banging, all right? Pam looked better than Gina. But Martin immediately would start telling Pam how ugly she was. Pam was the dark-skinned woman, all right? He telling her how ugly she was and how nappy her hair was. Her hair was straight. Her hair, they had straightened it, hot brushed it, hot combed it, all of that. Her hair, there was nothing nappy about it, but he's always telling her how nappy her hair was. This puzzled me coming up. I was like, what is he talking about? So it didn't make sense then, but it makes sense now, hindsight 2020, to look back on it and put some thought into it. It's like, oh, I get it. Dark skin, ugly, light skin, pretty. See? Okay? So, Pam got ripped on. Her nappy hair, come out her nappy hair, the buckshots on her neck, all of that. But then, when Gina come around, he throws himself on the floor for Gina, begging and pleading this woman. Now this is the light-skinned woman. All right, now he's all over the floor, crying all over himself for this light-skinned woman. All right, he literally would start crying if she scolded him for something like a little child. And Gina, you know, he you know, he couldn't handle her being mad at him. All right, he was a total beta simp for the light-skinned woman. All right, and even literally getting on his knees for her at times. Please, Gina, please, please. See? Then the scene flips, and we see him in drag as Shanae. Okay, yeah, he played a lot of characters on the show, and again, it was hilarious at that time. But what did Dave Chappelle say on his Oprah interview? That every black man who wants to make it in Hollywood at some time, at some point, is going to be forced to wear a dress and do some kind of a drag queen routine. And then, bam, we see Martin playing out exactly what Dave said. Check it out in case you forgot.
I mean, I'm a conspiracy theorist to a degree. Like, when I connect dots that maybe shouldn't be connected, I don't know. But certain dots, like when I see that they put every black man in the movies in a dress at some point in their career, I'll be connecting them down like, wow, all these brothers got to wear a dress. This happened to me. I'm doing a movie with Martin.
Yeah.
The movie's going good. So I walk in the trailer. I'm like, man, this must be the wrong trailer because there's a dress in here. They come in, So the writer comes in. I think he's the writer. He's like, Dave, listen, we got this hilarious scene where Martin's sneaking out of jail. So he disguises you as a prostitute. And you put this dress on, and huh? What? A prostitute? Nah, I'm not doing that. I don't feel comfortable with that. That should have been in the discussion. What? You don't feel comfortable with it? I mean, it's a hilarious bit. All the greats have done it. So, well, if all the greats have done it, it's kind of hacky, right? You're right. So why don't we just not do it? Because I don't feel comfortable wearing a dress. Oh, come on, Dave. Listen, we got it all set up. We're supposed to shoot. Every minute you waste costs this much money. You know, the pressure comes in. Huh. He said, I'm not wearing no dress, man. I'm funnier than a dress. Just give me something funny to say. I don't need to wear no dress to be funny. What am I, Milton Berle? You know, we're going like this. And then finally he's like, and he leaves. And then like the director comes, Dave, it really would be great if you wear the dress. What is wrong? What is this, Brokeback Mountain in here? So then, and wear the dress. I don't want to wear the dress. I want to wear this dress. You know what I mean? This is, oh, gosh, this guy's so difficult. They leave. Now the producers comes, come on, David, would be so great. I mean, and then I started thinking about it. All the comics that I've seen, man, you know, strong brothers, why they be putting us in these dresses? But the minute it was clear, I was adamant, I'm not wearing a dress. I'm not wearing the dress. All right, fine. Think of something else. That comes back 10 minutes later, the whole new scene. Hot damn, how did you write the scene so fast? You know, it's like, so you got to take a stink.
So you can see just from that while we just watch this stuff and laugh, there's something much, much deeper going on behind the scenes. That character of Shanae would have been just as funny, maybe funnier, with a real woman playing the role. Look at Felicia on Friday, asking to borrow Smokey's microwave. All right? Check it out.
What's up?
Nothing.
Where Debbie at?
Oh, she's at the house. Craig, can I use y'all's microwave right quick?
Yeah, what you gotta cook?
Some chicken.
Give it here, I'll do it.
Nah, see, I was hoping that I could take it to the house with me.
My microwave?
Yeah.
That's like me asking you to use your air conditioner or something.
Well, Craig, I mean, you know, if we had an air conditioner, I would let you use
Craig,
it.
Damn, look.
Telephone.
Who asked to borrow a microwave, man? See? Now, that was funny. And nobody had to dress in drag to do that scene. So why did Martin and almost every other black man in Hollywood have to wear a dress at some point in their career? Do you see it now? See? So Martin put on a dress to be Shanae, and Kevin Hart put on a dress. I don't know what his female character was, but you know, you did have a lot of guys that said okay, and they did it. All right, but Dave said no, and they gave him a real hard time. But you don't have video of him running around with a dress on. Not that I know it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I haven't seen Dave Chappelle in a dress. I didn't watch every episode of his show, so I don't know if he ever caved in and did that. But from my understanding, he never did. Okay, so but a lot of other actors have done that. All right, so these are choices, and so we can't blame anybody. You can have people can ask you to do a lot of things. Hey, we got a slave role we want you to play. All right, so we got the whip is real soft. It's not gonna hurt, but you know. So we're just gonna have Henry over here whip on you a little bit, and we need you to roll around on the floor and act like it hurts and stuff. And if you agree to that, that's up to you. That's a choice. All he did was ask, so we can't get mad at the people for asking. Get mad at the people that said yes. That's where your mindset got to change. Okay. So when you watch this stuff, just understand, if it insults you, if you feel bad about it, stop getting mad at people that made the movie and start checking on the people that actually took the part. And you start to get somewhere when you start thinking along those lines, okay? You go in these different chat rooms and black folks still in there talking about Martin, all right? You still see them in there, oh, I'm watching Martin, I got it on right now. So that's still a thing, you know, okay? Great show, you know, it was hilarious. At least it used to be. For me, when I was fresh out of high school, all right, I was a child and I was still entertained by childish things. When I became an adult, I put a lot of the kiddie stuff away, but Martin was canceled in 1997. Sanford and Son was canceled in 1977, 78. Martin was canceled in 1997, and Sanford and Son was canceled in 1977. Then they had Good Times. Good Times was canceled in 1979. All right, everybody's still watching this stuff. But when you put it all together like that, you have been sitting there watching nothing but the same shit over and over and over again for over 40 damn years. That's almost half a century of just sitting there and looking at the same thing over and over and laughing as if you never saw it before. You've seen every episode of everything you like over 20 times, and you're still sitting there crying, laughing at it as if it's brand new. That is absolute, literal insanity. I mean, that's the definition of insanity. I can't even imagine how somebody can sit and watch the same stuff over and over for 40 years. If they put you in an insane asylum, and lock you in a room, and they just have you watching the same show over and over, that's all that's on for 40 years, that would actually be considered a form of torture. And the people that did it in this day and age, if they found out, and especially if it went public, they could get in a lot of trouble for that. That's a form of torture. It's psychological torment. It's beyond torment. It's brainwashing, essentially. And eventually what would happen is the person that sat and watched that for 40 years would begin acting exactly like the people in the show. You see what I'm saying? You understand where I'm starting to go with this? Okay. You become programmed by what you watch. Martin in this show, he always ends up getting angry at his homeboys and ends up kicking everybody out of the house. Get out! And all of y'all get to stepping. Okay, that's how he talked to him. Now, you know, in real life, somebody that disses their homeboys like that, y'all supposed to be friends, and that's the way you talk to your friends. Man, one day you're gonna go outside and they're gonna catch your ass. And before you can get in your car, you're gonna catch a bad one. You can't treat people like that, and especially like Tommy and Cole, who were both twice Martin's size. Tommy was tall, but Cole, if you ever really looked at him, especially in the later episodes, Cole was jacked. Cole was buffed out, man. Cole, this dude wasn't no punk. You could look at him and tell he wasn't no punk. He was playing a role, but you could look at Cole and tell Cole wasn't no punk. Okay, Cole would have caught that dude somewhere, and I'm telling you, that brother that played Cole, his name is Carl Anthony Payne II. And during various interviews, he actually admitted that he and Martin actually had real beef with each other, and actually came to blows more than once. I don't know that they actually got into an actual physical fight, but it came. I know he said it came close. They never said that it actually happened. Not that I saw, but that was what was going on behind the scenes. Okay, and so what was the beef about? Well, from the sound of it is that Martin, just like on the show, he kind of had the big head. He was the star of the show, but Carl had girls after him, and Martin didn't like that. Like Cole had real chicks. He had the real chicks that was after him. All right, and he was hooking up, and I think he was hooking up with some of the girls from the show. Martin didn't like that. Cole/Carl never said what actually happened, but I'm wondering if Carl didn't actually get to hook up with Tisha Campbell, Gina, Martin's girlfriend on the show. I'm wondering if her and Carl/Cole actually got a hookup or something, because that's who Martin really wanted in real life. He was actually trying to get with her, and she ended up filing a lawsuit against him, getting restraining orders and everything, and that was actually what canceled that whole show. He was really after her, and she kept saying no, and he couldn't take no for an answer. But she may have hooked up with Cole, And that may have set Martin against him, because why would Martin be trying to fight with his co-star? What was the thing? But and then for Cole/Carl to admit that it was over women, it was behind females, and he didn't want to say what it was. He may have got with Tisha, and Martin may have flipped on that. So something happened. I'm not sure, but I just wanted it to be known that when you look at shows like this, what happens is, you got to understand, they don't just make this stuff up at random. These shows are actually psyops. They're psychological operations, okay? They're specifically designed to get the viewers to think and act in a certain way. And that's why they're called TV programs, or rather, televised programming, okay? They're televising a program into your brain, like how you install a program into your computer or install an app on your phone, see? So we get our programming a little bit different. We watch TV, and then these shows, they vibrate at a certain frequency. If you get your video camera and record your screen, you can kind of see the waves going through, and they go through at a certain rate. And that rate that it vibrates or pulses or moves is called frequency, okay? That frequency synchronizes with your brain. Once it synchronizes, that's why you start to watch the shows and you start to get a little sleepy and you get relaxed, and you start to move into these different brainwave patterns, like this gamma and theta and delta waves. So now you are open to suggestion when you start to enter these extreme levels of relaxation. Now you're open to suggestion. Whatever's on the screen is what goes into your brain. It's what you get programmed with, okay? So you're sitting there laughing that by the time it's over, after a year or two of watching Martin, you got all the lines memorized. You think Gina, the light-skinned one, looks better than Pam. You rip the Dark Sisters apart, and you talk about the buckshots on her neck, just like Martin did. Now we talking to somebody else, and we start talking about buckshots on her neck. Where'd you get it from? You got it from the show. You don't even know where you got it from, but it was something that was in your mind, and you just put it out there when you had the opportunity. See? So this is how this thing works. This is how the programming works. So black women have had such mental damage behind the jokes about their nappy hair that now you can't catch one without her wig or her weave on, covering up her hair. All right, that's been going on for so long. And if the weave or the wig does come off, say they out in the street fighting or something like that, or the wind catch it, blow it off, or something happens, they are absolutely humiliated and ashamed, and they cover their heads off, and then they go running off and and they got their head covered, and they can run off somewhere and hide because they're ashamed of how they look. They're ashamed of their hair. See, their real hair. It's embarrassing to them. And then they done had the weave on for so long, it's chewed their real hair up. So now it's just a scarred up, bloody scalp. If you were to see what's underneath that weave and wig, is the hairline is ripped out and shredded, the hair is half gone, and they've destroyed it with those weaves and wigs. They don't want anybody to see that. So now they never take it off because they don't want you to see how much damage that they cause. Okay, and also if they take it off, then they have to start taking care of their real hair. They don't want to do that either. All right, so it's kind of a trap that they have willingly and willfully put themselves into. All right, so these shows foster this kind of warped behavior. That's what I'm trying to get to. All right, that's what these shows do to you, and you don't even realize it. So you got to ask the question: how come almost every show that's predominantly black, everybody on the show has to clown each other and act like they're in 8th grade lunch period? The characters on these shows will be 30 to 40 years old with a family, but cracking jokes on each other's hair and clothes the whole half an hour every week, all right, for years. And then we get out into the streets and we do the same thing to each other that we got off of the show. Then you look at how reality TV changed women, all right? They got them out here climbing the counters at McDonald's trying to fight all the workers because her fries was cold. And when the fries was cold, she then went back and threw them at somebody. The other woman cussed her out. Now she cussing her out. Now she climbing over the counter to go fight because her fries is cold. Okay, fighting in the street, ripping each other's clothes off. Why? Because they saw it on TV all these years, and now that's how they really act. Okay? So, see, art used to imitate life. People, artists, creators saw life going on, and then they got the paint and the canvas, and they painted what they saw. Okay? But then, like, now somebody got to the art and flipped it and warped and distorted the art. Okay? And now, life imitates art. So if the art is garbage, then your life becomes garbage. See? So so if somebody wants to get in your head, all they got to do is take our art, take our music, take our shows, our TV shows, and make it into some kind of a warped, nightmarish parody, and then put it back out there to you in a twisted format. And now you subconsciously pattern yourself after that garbage and don't know that you're doing it. Okay? And if anybody really tried to act like Martin, like he did on the show, like I said, they'd have been killed. You can't do that to people. And look how many are out here being killed for dogging and disrespecting their friends and family and other people for no reason. I'm not saying it's right that they should be killed. I'm saying that's what's happening. Okay? People are tired of being dogged out and disrespected for no reason. Now notice I said for no reason. A lot of people are into all kinds of bullshit nowadays, and they need to get called out on it. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about making fun of people's clothes, laughing at somebody for being out of work, or mocking and making fun of somebody for not having a lot of money, that kind of thing. Okay? So when is the last time someone mocked you for not having a lot of money or for being out of a job? If you can think of an instance, then there you go. You see what I'm talking about. Okay? So we didn't used to treat each other with so much disrespect and hatred. But, you know, when we were cool and everybody, you know, it was all about love and unity and brotherhood, that was also what the music and the TV and everything was about back in the pre-90s. So go back to the 70s, 80s, 60s, you know, that's what they were into back then. You know, unity, brotherhood, love, you know, that kind of thing. And the music back then reflected that, okay? So you had, what was it, Love Caravan. That was the name of one of the songs, Love Caravan. And I think it was at the OJ's. Not sure who did that one. Love Caravan, KRS-One, and a whole lot of the rappers and other artists got together and did a song called Stop the Violence, which was a big thing back in the 80s, Stop the Violence. That was big. Patti LaBelle was big back then, man, and she had a song, she had a lot of songs, but one, If Only You Knew How Much I Love You, you know, beautiful, beautiful music, you know. The Isley Brothers, you know, bad, man, bad group, you know. Fight the Power was one of their big, big hits, and I think that was in the 70s. Fight the Power, you know, and they were talking about making a political statement, so that was during the civil rights movements and all of this kind of thing, see? So, yeah, they did all of that, man, and they did that Fight the Power. You might associate that with Public Enemy with your boy Chuck D, but the Fight the Power, the original concept of that came from the Isley Brothers in the 70s, see? So, you know, you go back to the OJs, they had Love Train, and, you know, man, we can just name them all day. It was all love and unity and togetherness, and that's what it was back then, see? So, they dealt with friendship, harmony, family. That was real big back 70s, 60s, 80s. Family was real big, you know, black family, that was big, you know. Take care of your mom, your dad, you know, being there for your children. Man, that's, if you mess with somebody's children back in the 70s and 80s, you had a problem, okay? So today is not so much. You got a crazy woman come screaming at you. She might be able to find her baby daddy and send him after you, or some other dude she messing with and send him after you. But it's not like it was back in the 80s, because that was the father. If somebody came after you as a man dealing with those children back in the 70s, 80s, 60s, that was the father that was coming after you. It was a whole different level of thing. It was a whole different energy associated with it back then, okay? So even the rap music back then was all about urging people to educate themselves, to get more knowledge, and the verses were actually teaching you history, praising black leaders and black movements, promoting black movements and all of those kind of things. They had groups back then, like X-Clan, which was a name based on Malcolm X. Okay, they had Poor Righteous Teachers. See, yeah, they had all of that, man. You go ahead and listen to some of these cats on YouTube. Look them up. They still got all the music online. You can check it out. Brand Nubian was another one. All right, I already said KRS-One. Matter of fact, KRS-One, I think he has a new album out now. So you go check that. Look up KRS-One, look up his album, and then you can get that on Amazon. So shout out to KRS, man. Check this brother out. A lot of the young ones today don't know about him. But if you go listen to KRS, these new rappers really can't mess with this dude. This dude was like top ace rapper, in the 80s, I think it was in the 90s. KRS was in the 90s. He might have been in the 80s too. He's been out for a long time. But yeah, that's one of the aces right there. That's like, top pilots. That's a Top Gun rapper right there. We talk about the Maverick. That was like one of the Top Gun rappers right there. So you might want to check that dude out if you're not familiar with him. Young brother coming up, might want to, get into that. So yeah, check these dudes out. And then what happened was all those groups got banned from the radio, and they wouldn't give anybody a record contract who wanted to make uplifting or black empowerment music. They would only give you a contract if you were willing to make gangster rap, gangster music. That's what they wanted, okay? And all the positive, uplifting music disappeared. You talking about love and unity and romance and that kind of fight the power and all of that. You couldn't get a contract if that's what you was gonna get on stage and do. See, so you don't hear about that anymore, and that's why. This is what happens when you have a craft, you have something that you're doing, something that you feel dedicated to, something you feel you feel like this is a part of who you are. Okay, and then you let somebody else come in and take control of that in exchange for money. It doesn't matter what you're into, they're going to turn it into what they want it to be. All right, so you got to learn how to walk away from money in order to get your message out there, so that you can tell the people, whatever it is that you feel like you want to say. Whenever somebody else takes control, now you can only say what they want you to say. So we got to learn how to walk away from that dollar, and that hasn't been happening, and that's where a lot of the problems are coming from. Okay, so yeah, after all of that died out, that's when all of the black movies in the late 80s and into the 90s became gang affiliated. All right, different types of movies and gang violence and all that kind of things skyrocketed as a result of the gangster movies. So again, you see life imitating art. See how they did it? All right. So they put out there what they wanted the people to imitate, what they wanted them to do. Once they realized that they could do this, and they did it, and the people kept falling for it over and over and over through the decades. And so now gang violence was like at an all-time high in the 90s and late 80s as a result of different groups coming in and taking the music over and putting out this gangster-oriented type of music. So wiped out a lot of people with that. They fell for it. All right. So yeah, you let those strange folks show up with their money. If you fall for that and you give them power over you, you lost. It's a wrap. Okay. So you're gonna do what they tell you to do. So all that, the love and unity, at some point, if you really want to fix some of this, you have to start getting back into some of that. You have to start doing what you want to do. If you know that that's the way to go and you don't see it out here, then you put it out there. All right. If you know some people, if you can't do music, find somebody else that does music, and then you can finance them. And y'all can work together to put this out there. So this is how it all got started in the first place. Why can't it happen again now? All right. So you don't even really hear music anymore they have a lot of music out there, but it's not, anybody will tell you that's not real music. A lot of the stuff that's out here now is not real music. All right. And the stuff that came on back then literally when it came on, a lot of the rap music that came on in the 80s and 90s, the first thing you hear is gunshots and women screaming and children crying. And that was the way that a lot of these rap music, that's the way it started. They started out, you just heard people getting killed. And that was the music. How do you start out listening to people get killed and that's your song? All right? But that's what it was. And like I said, they fell for it. And then when the beat comes in, it glorifies the death and destruction that you just heard. See? So they screaming and going, and then the beat comes, and the beat is bad and everything. So now you into the beat and you forget, and you don't even think about nothing about the fact that you just heard somebody get killed. It's like, whatever, man, this beat is bad. See? So what does that do to your mind in the long run? So it's a lot that's out there that's still good now. But like I said, you really gotta pick and choose. You gotta dig for this stuff. It's a lot of good stuff in music and it's a lot of good stuff on television. But you really gotta dig for it. Okay, my favorites right now is Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars. Those are my top two right now because they really got that old flavor, you know. So yeah, so that, you know, there's a lot of other ones out there, but right now for me those two is kind of like at the top. All right, but you got to dig for this stuff. You know, you hear it on the radio, but you don't hear the whole album. You hear maybe one or two songs over and over and over. All right, so you got to turn it into what you want it to be. Go get what you like, and then put that on your phone or on your iPod, and then listen to that. Program yourself into what you want to be. See, the way they program you into what they want you to be, you got to counter that and program yourself into what you want to be. Figure out where you want to be, how you want to live your life, and then find things that can program you into that direction. See? So a lot of the stuff that you might want to do, that you might be interested in, you won't even find it on your cable station. You got to scour the internet for this stuff, okay, and go and dig it up. All right, and then you watch it on your phone, your laptop, that kind of thing, okay. And I hate to say this, but it's a fact that our people just don't tend to watch too many high-minded type programs. Most of us was watching a lot of that foolishness that I mentioned with Martin and Sanford and all of that, and they're stuck in this 10th grade mindset. All that, the Medea, you know, foolishness, threatening to shoot anybody that makes her mad. Now that's all you see and hear out here in the real world. So they watched it on TV all these years and watched it in movies all these years, and then so now you get out in the real world and they really are out there. I wish a bitch would. Climbing over the counter at McDonald's, fighting in Walmart, ripping each other's weave out and stuff. And, you know, so now you see it for real. But it was funny when we was just watching it on Medea. Then it was funny. Now it's real. Now it's not so funny. Especially if you're the one that's getting your extensions ripped out, getting your hair ripped out, your wig snatched off. Now it's not funny. But it was hilarious when you watched it on TV. See? So, you know, that's what they have out here, and they have it out there for a reason. We're stuck on this reality TV garbage, all right? And when you can turn that off, you'll start to disconnect from that kind of programming, all right? It's mostly women that's into that kind of thing, and that's mostly women that you see fighting in those stores and restaurants, okay? So they watch it. It's all this garbage. Why do we just, most of our people, why do we watch garbage? What are you talking about? Sanford and Son, Demond Wilson himself, Lamont called it garbage. He said it was crap. He called it garbage. All right, he said he'd never do that again. I told you that. Family Matters. You know, we sit there 40 years watching Family Matter reruns, Sanford and Son reruns, sports over and over, the football games, basketball over and over. We even played the sports video games that look just like the sports that you watch on TV. So you watch it on TV and you see the game, then you go and play the game that look like what you just watched. So year after year, and they got, what do they have? Madden 2000, Madden 2001, Madden 2002, Madden 2003, Madden 2004, Madden 2006. These are actual games. The same game over and over, but just with a little bit better graphics each year. Ooh, it's high resolution now. Before it looked good. And it's high resolution now. When you look at the two, you can't really tell the difference, but it's better than what it was. So yeah, get this one. So then you go buy that one. That's another $40 or $50. and then they come out with another one look just like that one, and then you go buy that one because there's an extra player in there that one didn't have. So you want that player, so you get that one to get an extra guy. Over and over for 6 years, and people fell for it. The same game. They don't have to remake the game. They just have to tell the computer to re-render all of the old stuff and make it a little bit cleaner, a little bit crisper. Throw a new character in there, a new ball player, and then put the game out and get the same money for a fraction of the work that it took to make it in the first place. They really put some time into it on the first Madden, but by the time they got to Madden 2006, it was just the same game over and over with just a few little things added in, and everybody went and bought it, and they made millions. And just putting the same stuff out over and over, and they made millions. And there's a lot of black people love that Madden stuff, man, and the sports and the NBA Jam, and they love it. And they just keep buying the same thing over and over again. See, and they never catch on that they're being played, you know, and that there's better stuff out there. Okay, so you become locked into that mindset for decades and don't even think about it. It doesn't even cross your mind. So then we wonder why we can't move forward. Why haven't we gotten further than what we've gotten? Because of this, exactly what I'm telling you right here. Locked in, see? So, you know, I'm always doing stuff like this. Video content, development, creation, art. Even when I was young, man, when I was just, you know, coming up in school and stuff, summer vacation, you know, what are you gonna do for summer break? What are you gonna do? Well, me, I would set myself up a project, and I like to draw and paint and things like that, and I still have all of that artwork and some of my stuff that I did as a child, 12 years old, drawings and pictures. I may put some of that on here one day, but I like to set little projects up for myself, and then that would be how I spent my summer. I find this the hottest picture in the comic book that I could find. This picture is so cool, and then I decided in my mind that I'm going to try to reproduce this picture as best as possible, as close as I can to this picture. And so, you know, that was a new endeavor for me. That was something that, you know, that I liked working on and challenging myself to do new things, you know. So that's how I spent my summer. But a lot of people just, you know, they didn't go that way, and today a lot of people paying for it because now they don't have that mindset, you know, to go do new things. All right, so yeah, I try to keep something going on. I'm always teaching myself. I was always teaching myself how to draw, or how to animate, or how to edit video, how to edit audio. All of that is self-taught, you know, because I had the time, so I always just try to pick up something new. So now, back in the pre-90s, you know, I was a TV fanatic back then. I had my little projects that I like to do, but I was pre-90, like in the 80s and the 70s and 80s, I was really into TV. And it was always something to watch that I wanted to look at back then, you know. So, but during the 90s, all those shows went off the air, and then they just started putting a lot of crap out there. And rather than connect to it and become a part of it, I couldn't connect to it, and I just stopped watching as much TV. So I went a little bit different direction with that. But there was always a few shows on that were fantastic. But like I said, I like different stuff than my friends. So I was never into the stereotypical black shows that everybody else was watching. And the only bad part about that was that, you know, while I'm into all these really cool shows, but whenever I tried to talk to anybody else black about them, nobody knew what I was talking about. So then, you know, they want to talk about Fat Albert or 227 or Good Times, what's happening, you know, that kind of thing. And I didn't know what they were talking about. I might have seen a couple of episodes, you know, I knew about the shows. I had seen the shows, but I didn't watch them like every day, or, you know, I didn't make sure I didn't miss an episode. It wasn't like that. And so I couldn't relate to the shows, and I couldn't relate to the people that were talking about it, that were into it. So what I want to do here is kind of flip it for you. If watching all of that stereotypical bullshit is what has gotten so many of us locked, or rather programmed into that mindset of intellectual regression, then maybe by watching different shows, you can break out of that mindset as well. So it's called, like I said, it's called television programming for a reason, or televised programming for a reason. All right, so your brain, I told you, it's like a computer, but it's so much like a computer, a lot of people don't even realize it actually runs on electricity. Bioelectrical impulses is what makes your arms and your legs be able to move. It's your brain sending electrical impulses to those muscles and causing them to move. So you have electricity going through your body, okay? That's why when they tase you, it short circuits it and you can't move and all that, all right? So that's how close you are to a computer. So when you watch your televised programming, they're sending you your programming through the TV, and then they even tell you, they actually tell you that that's what it is. They tell you it's TV. They're telling you what it is. People miss all of this stuff. They don't hide a lot from you. You just don't catch it. All right. So then, what would happen if you began to watch a different kind of program? What if you start watching the programs that they watch? See? So you can change this. You can go in different directions by willing yourself, forcing yourself to do it. So what if you really let yourself absorb these new shows, new information, and really let yourself get into it? What if you resist the urge to turn it off and flip the channel back over to a bunch of idiots giggling and cackling and cracking jokes on each other? What if you force yourself to tune into a show that sparks your imagination and your creativity, and then takes it to the furthest edges of what you can comprehend? That's what I want to do with you today, to give you a small selection of higher level programs that can change your programming and maybe spark your mind to start functioning on higher levels than what you thought possible. So I'd say give each series at least 10 full episodes to give your mind time to connect to it. Now, the trick is you got to focus on these shows, okay? You can't be on the phone while it's playing. You got the radio on in the background. I never understood that. People trying to watch something on TV, but got the radio on in the background. How do you have the radio on and the TV? So you got to get that chaos energy out of your mind and out of your heart and soul. That's chaos. You got the TV on, you got the kids screaming, you got the radio playing, people coming in and all out your house. Man, y'all, you ain't gonna, if that's where how you live, you ain't gonna never go beyond that. You'll never go anywhere if that's where your energy level is at, is in chaos mode. You all have to cut that. That's garbage. That's bullshit. That's almost satanic because it represents chaos, like I said. So you have to establish order in your home. Turn off the radio and the TV. Don't play them both at the same time. If the children run around going crazy, going, hey, go take a nap. It's time for y'all to lay down, man. It's too much in here. And so you get them taken care of. Give them a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and send them to bed. Go take a nap until they calm down. You know, and if they're calm, then you can tell them that they can come and watch the show with you, but you have to be quiet. You can't be making a lot of noise. If you're gonna watch the show, then watch it. If you want to take a nap, take a nap. But the point is that you need to focus on these shows and let yourself get into them and follow the storyline so that you can absorb that higher level programming and then use it to take yourself to higher levels. See what I'm saying? Turn off the cell phone, turn off the light so that you can focus, because now you're in a dark room and you're just looking at your screen. See what I'm saying? Total focus for the first time in your life. Tune in 100% to something that's not childish and jokey joke bullshit. All right? So what if you start watching these shows and filling your mind with information that had a distinctive scientific and futuristic aspect to it? Okay? So what you have to understand is that nobody is just blowing millions of dollars on these different shows just to have you sitting at home being entertained while you eat your dinner and fall asleep 15 minutes into the show. All right? These programs are specifically designed and engineered, as I said, to elicit a certain response or behavior out of its viewers. They get people who are the best of the best, and the government literally pays these people to participate in and to help build these sci-fi, scientific, science fiction conduits okay? And they use these conduits to change people's thinking. These shows go in and they change your thinking once you watch enough of it, okay? So if you watch and listen to the right shows, they actually freely admit this. And if you check this out, you hear them talking about how they went and got artists from Marvel Comics and got them to make certain comic books and things, and to put certain ideas out there that they wanted into the consciousness of the people. So they use sci-fi to get people thinking a certain way. I'm just trying to show you how the government gets involved with this stuff. You're not just watching the show. The government gets involved, or some of your secret agencies or whatever get involved, and they put these things together to affect how you think. Check this out.
Jack Kirby wrote he's a comic book artist.
Yeah.
He had the story of the face on Mars 20 years before NASA revealed the Viking photographs.
Yeah, this is like another weird story where science fiction preempts science fact, just as Jonathan Swift did with the Martian moons. I'm sure everybody listening to the show right now has heard of the so-called face on Mars, this
Cydonia.
Yeah, it's Cydonia, this huge structure that looks like a carved ancient face and has become known as the face on Mars. Well, again, what's not very well known, but again parallels the Gulliver's Travel story, is that back in the 1950s, Jack Kirby, who worked on some of the famous early superhero characters of Marvel Comics, characters like Spider-Man, the Incredible Hulk, characters like that, actually wrote a comic book called The Face on Mars. And the pictures actually very, very eerily parallel the real face.
How weird is this?
Yeah, it's very, very weird. And, I mean, in the story, it actually tells the tale of a team of astronauts led by an astronaut named Ben Fisher that go to Mars. And on arriving, Fisher and his colleagues, they find this huge monolithic carved human-like face on the surface. And Fisher climbs it and discovers that the eye sockets are actually entrance points to a hidden realm that's buried deep within the face. And inside, he uncovers like a lush land that's published by a band of giant-sized alien beings. So, you know, it tells like an adventure story, which obviously is what Kirby did well. But the parallels are so close to be, you know, almost jaw-dropping, even to the fact that he called it the face on Mars. And when you also consider that here's someone else like Jonathan Swift who preempted the official discovery of this particular structure, you begin to wonder, you know, does somebody know something that we don't?
Yeah, and sadly he died in 1994. We can't get the answer from him.
No, unfortunately, we're not able to get the answer to this day. I mean, you know, I think that's one of the problems, particularly with some of these old stories, that they go to the grave with the person that put them out there.
Especially now, Nick, knowing what we know about events that have unfolded, how cool would it be to be able to go back to someone like a Kirby and say, okay, Jack, 20 years before we found out about this, you had it.
Yes.
How'd you do it?
Yeah, exactly. And again, you know, this isn't something that's, I mean, although it's been discussed before, it's not something widely known, you know, as far as people pressing NASA to say, well, hang on a minute, you know, you put these pictures out in the late 70s. Here's a guy actually presenting it in a fictional format in a comic book with the same name 20 years before. What's going on? And I actually think, you know, if we push this angle a bit further, we might potentially uncover some interesting things. This actually wasn't the only time when Kirby was involved, for example, in the world of, I guess, government secrecy, official secrecy. He was actually also tangentially involved in an operation which was designed to get a number of U.S. hostages out of Iran when the American embassy siege occurred in Tehran in 1979. And the plan was to smuggle the hostages out and have them parade straight through Tehran airport back to the U.S. by passing them off as Canadian filmmakers making a science fiction film in Iran. And Kirby was going to be enlisted to do some promotional artwork, etc., to, I guess, enhance the idea that this was a real film production rather than an attempt to clandestinely get some State Department employees out of Iran. And so he was involved in that as well. And, you know, you see little things like this, little snippets, and you begin to wonder, is there a bigger jigsaw to be put together?
Okay, now, did you pick up on the name that they dropped? Who did they say was the artist that they went and got? Jack Kirby, right? Now, that should sound familiar to you, because if you watched my previous video, Black Panther Exposed, then now if you haven't seen that, you might want to go check that out. That's another good one, because Jack Kirby was also the one who made up the Black Panther character. Remember that? Okay, that was in that show. I talked all about that. So check that out. Jack Kirby was the creator of Black Panther. All right, and then Stan Lee was a writer for that. All right, Jack Kirby was an artist, but Black Panther was Jack Kirby's idea. All right, so he developed it with Stan. Kirby was the original artist and the developer, and he said he made it up for his black friend. That's why he developed the Black Panther. And now he did that. Now here he is drawing a comic book called The Face on Mars, where he drew pictures of that alien monument on Mars that looks like a human face. All right, and he did that 20 years before scientists supposedly even knew it existed. All right, now that gives us this 20-year gap from sci-fi, science fiction, to reality. We have a 20-year gap. Now remember that number, 20. Okay, so as you can see, this is already getting heavy, man. We already getting into some conspiracy type stuff. It's not even really a conspiracy, because you know the evidence is right there. These are, you know, people's coming right there on national radio and telling you, yeah, this happened. You know, so it's not even a conspiracy at that point. This is just, we're just dealing with history and facts at this point, and that's what I like to deal with. Okay, you can't come into this kind of a thing, into this kind of mindset, into this kind of content with that goofy mindset that you might have when you watch an episode of Sanford or Martin. Okay, a lot of people like to get high or drunk when they got that kind of mess on. Then they just sit back giggling all night until they fall asleep during a 5-hour Martin marathon, and then you see how far that's gotten you. Nowhere. Okay, so now do the opposite. Buy the entire series of anything that you hear me discussing today. Okay, buy all of them. Don't even just get one, get them all. Okay, then start binge watching that while you eat dinner, but don't get drunk or high while you watch it. See, do the opposite of what you've been doing. Okay, because what you've been doing hasn't been working, right? So now you do the opposite. So watch these shows with a clear mind and try to follow them, try to understand them. All right, force yourself to sit and focus and watch like a laser beam, you know, and really watch and resist the urge to turn it off and go and turn on some dumb shit again and just go back to giggling. All right, you got to resist that, because you're gonna want to. Oh man, I ain't trying to see this, man. This is boring, man. This is, oh man. But I'm not giving you garbage. I'm giving you, these are top critically acclaimed shows that were top #1 for years, but just most of us never knew about it. Okay, so if you watch it, I'm telling you to do something for you. So if you can manage that, if you can manage to cut the bullshit out, turn off the phone and focus and turn out the light and sit in quiet and watch these shows, you will get something from that, and you will quickly find yourself thinking differently, talking differently, and acting differently. And you'll likely also find that a lot of people you used to hang around can no longer relate to you, and you can't relate to them. See? So when you're going in there talking about something you just watched out of this list, and they're still talking about how funny Martin was last night, you're not going to be, so be ready. If you really want to get to them higher levels, be ready to leave a lot of people behind. There's a cost for everything. Do you want to move up? The cost is a lot of the foolishness that you've been dealing with, including the people in your life, have to get left behind. That's the cost. It's one of the first costs, not the only cost. So when you're in the bullshit, you find yourself surrounded by others who are also into bullshit. And bullshitting becomes your common ground. That's what y'all have in common, and y'all just sit around all day and just bullshit with each other and talk crap. And that's how you get along. That's your relationship. Okay? So just sitting around talking nonsense for hours about absolutely nothing. But then when you start connecting to your higher mind, your higher self, you'll find yourself by yourself. And that's really how it's supposed to be. Okay? You can never hold yourself back. You're not supposed to. And connect to foolishness just so that you can connect to foolish people and have quote unquote friends. Always go for quality over quantity. See? Now, these shows I'm going to give you will help you raise your energy and your mindset if you let them. So I put together a short list of 5 of my favorite TV series. Now, as I name each one, I'm then going to break it down for you and explain to you why each one is important for you to watch and how it can change your thinking and your outlook on the world itself. Now, these are going to be in order of badassness, okay? They're all really good. They're really badass. All of them are badass, okay? But each one has something different to teach you. So I put them in order of least badass to most badass, all right? But it's all badass. It's all cool. You ready? All right. So here we go. We're going to start with number 5. Start with the weakest and lead up to the strongest. But it's not even weak. This is just number 5. The number 5 badass TV series that I would like to introduce you to is a brand new series that's actually based on an old series. It actually just came out a few months ago, to be honest, and I've only seen 1 episode of it so far. But it is the absolute cutting edge of media production technology. I mean, really, every show, judging from the first episode that I've seen, plus the trailers, and so they're showing future episodes. But every show is really on the level of a whole movie all by itself. This show is far beyond anything else that I've seen on TV, just in terms of technological achievement. But what I've seen so far was actually just really well done. Great story, great acting, and just highly entertaining. And yeah, this is the least of them, but it's great. And this is called Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Check out the trailer.
Hi. Sorry to interrupt. This is your captain? Our mission. To chart the stars. Push the boundaries of what is known. And what is possible.
I'm standing on the surface of a comet.
I love this job.
These people, this crew, I believe we can do anything.
You wanted to seek out new life. Go where the aliens are.
Your presence is blasphemy.
Let's talk about this. Find some
I think that went well.
Perhaps we should kiss.
That seems logical.
Maybe we don't touch anything else. Just a suggestion.
The whole future hangs in the balance.
No one can know the future. One can only follow one's instincts.
You're the best of Starfleet. Our ability to work together, that's our greatest strength. Let's show them what you got.
Now I know you're sitting here like, oh man, Star Trek, man, go ahead. Everybody trying to watch them damn Star Trek, man, go ahead. But hold up, okay? Because check this out. Y'all, I'm telling you, man, y'all missed out on so much. While the majority of our people have never really cared about Star Trek, some did. My dad liked it. And apparently a lot of the guys at his job were into it back in the day when they were all working together and they had to go out of town to go take classes and such, extra training, you know, for their job. He was doing technical maintenance supervisor on these computers and stuff. Big computers that they had back then was the size of a refrigerator. And so, you know, they had to get extra training on those over the years, almost every year. And he was telling us that, you know, he'd come back and he'd tell the family about it, that after the training was over for the day, they would all rush back to the hotel so that they could watch Star Trek, so that they didn't miss an episode, because they was like all into it. Everybody was all into it. Now, out of his group, he was the only black one. Everybody else was white. All right, this is what white folk is into. They on a different level, man, and they wasn't running back to watch Sanford and Son. It was going back to watch Star Trek. He wasn't going back to watch Sanford and Son, although he laughed at that too. He thought it was cool. But when he like really went to go get into something, when he was rushing back to go see it, it was Star Trek. And so what is it about that show that had people enraptured, you know, for decades, and it still has a huge following? What is that, you know? So, but most of us, oh man, ain't trying to watch that, man, ain't trying to. So we missed that. We missed out on a lot. Okay, so my dad liked Star Trek. My dad was into technology. See, you see how it connects? Now, I know that that's just one example, but let me explain something. Let me put this out here to you. So, okay, so one of the problems is that, see, our people never really understood Star Trek. And because of that, almost the entire science fiction genre has flown right over our heads as an entire people. We've missed out on that whole genre. You don't hear black people talking about sci-fi, science fiction, Star Trek, you know, white folk dressing up as the characters and going down to the comic book convention. We just, oh man, look at these nerds, man. Look at these goofy geeks, man. You know, meanwhile, these people are the CEOs of Verizon. You know, these people have money, these people have power, these people have position, and they're into Star Trek and other shows like that. There's got to be a connection from what they watch as opposed to their lifestyles. It connects. You know, this stuff is helping them. It helps them to develop their processing power of their brains. All right. So what is it that causes so many of our people to outright reject anything dealing with science and technology, while the rest of the world embraces it and has moved their people forward into these ultra advanced communities, ultra advanced cities and nations? See, have any of you seen a photo of Singapore lately or heard anything about it? Hell no, unless you watch the Travel Channel or something like that. But you won't see anything about Singapore on the 6 o'clock news, because they want you to believe that USA is leading the pack in all areas. But in fact, at the last reviews that I had researched, I think Switzerland was ranked #1 for best place to live. Dubai was ranked as the wealthiest city, or what they call an emirate. That's a city for them, okay? But Tokyo and Singapore seem to be kind of battling it back and forth for the position of the most advanced cities on Earth. I've never seen anything like what these people have in Asia. It's absolutely amazing. They're just on a whole nother level. Check out what some of these guys out there have going on.
The paradigm has shifted. The world is accelerating. The science fiction of yesterday is rapidly becoming the science fiction of right now. How do we withstand the tectonic shifts in the world around us? How does a society thrive when the world economy is undergoing constant disruption? How do we continue to learn when information is moving at the speed of light? There are places that are ahead of the curve, cities building the tools for tomorrow.
We want to create innovations that have a real-world impact.
One day, Singapore can be self-sustained in food production.
You are looking at the development of Singapore 40 years ahead of time.
This city could be a model for what's to come. This is the city of the future, Singapore.
So as you can see, Singapore looks very close to a city that you might expect to see on an episode of Star Trek or Avatar. That's what I'm talking about, man. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. That wherever your mind goes and spends the most time is where your body ends up. See? So the more you watch and immerse yourself into high-level content, the more you want to begin working towards a high-level life. Asians are known for their high aptitude in the maths and sciences. Yeah, it's a stereotype, but unlike all of our stereotypes, that's a positive stereotype. And it's true. You know, you could look at how they live and see that, you know, these people ain't slipping. You know, they got their shit together out there. All right? They got their maths and their sciences together. They're able to take and put these types of things together, build a whole city like that on that level, and to lead the world in terms of science and technology. That's saying something. Come on, man. So we need to start being known for having a high aptitude for the maths and the sciences. They're doing it right. We got to catch up. See what I'm saying? So some of them might reject that stereotype out of embarrassment. You know, they don't like to be pigeonholed, I guess you could say. But it's like the same thing. That kind of puts me in mind of how the smartest kids in school always try to pretend that they're not the smartest kids in school. They'll flunk a test on purpose just so that they can hang out with the cool kids and be accepted with all the other ones that flunk. You got half the class, 85% of the class flunking the test, and maybe 4 or 5 kids that actually pass it, and one child ace it. You don't want to stand out like that. He don't have no friends. He want to hang out with them, so he'll say he didn't ace it. You know, but he won't show them the paper. You see what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So you can just look and see how a lot of these people live, and you can instantly see the results of embracing knowledge, technology, science, math, and wisdom. So even crime in these cities, if you look it up, is little to nothing compared to what we deal with in our black communities here in America, all right, here in the USA. A lot of people may not know there is no America now. You're in the USA. They never told you that, but that's another thing. Anyway, So yeah, this is what we're dealing with here. In 2020, Chicago alone had 771 murders. Detroit, Michigan had 328 murders. Memphis, Tennessee had 289. Okay. Now, by giving these numbers, I'm not saying that our people are just inherently trash, although the numbers make it seem that way. But in fact, I'm quite sure that there's something in the water, food, air, or all of the above. Stuff that's, not in a lot of other areas where you don't have those numbers. And I'm not just making this stuff up, just supposition out of the air either. If you've heard of chemtrails, that's been going on for years. Everybody's talking about the chemtrails. If not, then you need to start doing some research on that. In addition, the legendary civil rights leader, activist, and researcher Dick Gregory spoke on this years ago. He talked, man, I'm telling you, it's out there. A lot of us missed it because we don't look this stuff up. We watching Martin and Sanford, okay? But some people have been paying attention. Check this out. I'll show you. If you missed it, you need to check this out.
When you leave with all the hassle, can you have that love? I'm so tired of you black folk walking around looking all evil like that's gonna change something. Looking all mean and talking all crazy. Let them tell you about your children. If I sit here today and these are all white folks and they're putting some sleeping pill in my water and I sit up here and doze off and go to sleep and everybody told in the world niggas is lazy. They tired. No, that's because you too naive enough to know what they putting in my water. Okay? Your children ain't violent because they black. They ain't violent. Most people in the world live in a ghetto. They don't kill people. What are you putting in my malt liquor, white boy? What are you putting in? Huh? Hear me. And it's your fault too. Malt liquor is made by white companies, but only sold in black neighborhoods, and you ain't checked it to see what's in it. Huh? How much lead are you putting in my neighborhood? Lead affects my thinking capacity. Lead is only one thing on the planet more dangerous than lead, and that's manganese. Manganese will make you kill your mama. And let me tell y'all something. If you want to see the largest homicide rate in the world, it ain't in no black ghetto in America. It's a little town in Australia where them white folk homicide rate is 200 times what their population is. That town is located across the street from a manganese plant. How much manganese are you spraying in my neighborhood at night while I'm asleep? How in the world can a 9-year-old child find a heroin man, but the FBI can't find it, and you gonna tell me that's a black thing? Y'all crazy? What is this about?
So I would say, having heard that, to first off, if you are a drinker, you need to stop drinking. All right, and then start drinking only highly filtered water. All right, never drink water straight from the tap, and don't drink any bottled water at all. You don't know what's going into those bottles. You don't know. Farrakhan made mention long ago about Elijah Muhammad teaching about only eating food that you cook in your kitchen. And this way you know what's in it. And he talked about turning your kitchen into your medicine cabinet and using the food to heal. See, so that concept needs to be revisited and then brought out to the forefront. All right. So you might do well also to buy portable air filters and keep them running in different rooms of your house to clean the air. You don't have to run them all day, every day, but maybe run them for 10-15 minutes in whatever room you're in. Run that for maybe 10-15 minutes and clean the air out of your room. See what I'm saying? Make sure you got clean filters on your air conditioner. Run your air conditioners and such. So, this kind of thing. Just start working on, so you got your filter your own water, filter your air, cut out the liquor and the alcohol and the weed and all that. You don't know what's in this stuff. Your homie gave that to you. He don't know what's in it. So, if you start working towards some of these things, you can begin to mitigate and offset some of the damage that's being done to you. So I don't believe black people are just out here literally killing almost 1,000 people a year, especially when it wasn't 1,700 a year the year before or the year before that. So what made it jump? What happened? Something made it jump that high in 1 year. So you'll never know. They'll never tell you. But you can just assume that something like that is going on and then begin taking steps to clean a lot of this stuff out of your life and change what you eat and what you drink and start getting yourself cleaned up, getting yourself together. And you'll see some differences. Change what you watch and you can clean your mind. See? That kind of thing. So buying portable air filters and put them in there, running those, you'll see a difference with that. So you got to start using your brain and start doing things to resist and fight against the elements that are out here, which are designed to make you think and feel a certain way. And that's why one of the first things you got to do is either turn off your TV or start being extremely particular about what you watch. Okay, so maybe, just maybe, if more of us turn off all that goofy, infantile, blaxploitation bullshit, and maybe just watch. We used to watch it. That stuff they were watching for 2 to 10 hours a day. They'll maybe put an episode of Star Trek on that's only 45 minutes long and can barely make it through that. See, something wrong with that. Okay, but start getting more into that kind of a thing, and you might start seeing some changes in your thought processes. All right, you might notice that I'm spending a lot of time on Star Trek, even though I have it at the lowest rating in my 5-point list. But that's because it's probably one of the best examples of an advanced civilization. Although, in my opinion, it's not the best TV series, just in terms of pure entertainment, okay? And dropping secret knowledge and all of that kind of thing, which is something that sci-fi was literally designed to do. There was an author, I think it was Ray Bradbury, which he's famous. He's one of the founders, one of the developers of sci-fi in the earliest days, this famous writer. And he said during an interview, I'm pretty sure it was him, he said during the interview that sci-fi was created by the government to give them what's called basically something that they could use and say, you watched too much sci-fi. You didn't see a UFO, you just been watching too much sci-fi. You see? You didn't see an alien, you just been watching too much sci-fi. So that's why, according to him, they had developed that was a government invention in the first place. So anyway, science fiction is the way that the powers that be introduce you to real information and events that they don't feel that the public is actually ready for you to hear or see. So they present the truth to you in fiction, as fiction, to get you used to hearing and seeing these wild ideas, such as in Star Trek. We see all of this super advanced technology. There's spaceships moving at warp speed, which means warp means faster than light, okay? So here's a bit of information for you. When you get into Star Trek, you're going to hear them talking about some of this stuff, and it won't make sense unless you have a little bit of understanding. So the uninterrupted speed of light is 186,000 miles per second. So if the ship on Star Trek is moving at warp 3, that means it's going 3 times the speed of light. Warp 5 is 5 times the speed of light. So warp 3, you take 3 and multiply that by 186,000. And then you say that what that comes to, that would be per second. Okay, so at warp 5 times the speed of light, and so on. So if the ship's moving at warp 5, that ship is flying at over 930,000 miles per second. That's too much for the human brain to even comprehend when we start going into those kinds of numbers. So you can watch shows like that and then see it in action instead of trying to comprehend the numbers. You watch the show and then you can see what that might look like in reality, and that's what makes them so much fun. Okay, so my point is just that Star Trek was talking about these things. The first episode of Star Trek came way back in 1966. That was the first episode of the show. So some of this is based on theories presented by Einstein, who died in 1955. All right, so he was born in 1879. So we can speculate that it was in the early 1900s that Einstein first started making. That Einstein was making history with all of his groundbreaking theories and calculations in the field of physics and quantum mechanics, which is what you're getting into when you deal with light speed, wormholes, black holes, supernovas, all this kind of thing. Star Trek is a show that essentially takes all these wild scientific theories and brings them to life and shows you what they might look like in a real world setting. Okay, so to give you another example, they showed Captain Kirk. Now watch this now. They showed Captain Kirk using on that show what they call a communicator to talk to his spaceship while the ship would be up in orbit on the planet while he's down below on the planet, whatever, doing whatever, so something might happen. And then he could pull out this communicator and tell the ship, that he's ready to beam back up. Check this out.
Enterprise.
Scott here, sir.
We're beaming up. Notify transporter room. And make arrangements to pick up Mallory and Marple. They're scouting ahead of us.
Now, here's the cool part. Check this out, man. Dig this. Kirk first used his communicator in 1966. And 30 years later, we had the first flip phone, which was even better than the communicator. Okay? Various theorists conclude that the public is about 20 to 30 years behind what they really have going on in their secret labs. Things that are 50 or 60 years behind are so high level that they might not even release that stuff out to the public. So you ain't gonna see all of it, but the easy kind of baby stuff you might see, like a flip phone, you might see that within a 20-year gap. Okay, so there's that 20. We talked about that 20 before. Now we're seeing Captain Kirk again. Now we're seeing Captain Kirk flipping his communicator out, and then 20 years later we see the flip phone. See? So how many people don't catch a lot of stuff because they don't pay it any attention, but it's right there. But I've heard a lot of people talking about the connection to that flip phone from Kirk's communicator, and that's kind of about as far as they go with that. So yeah, so you got about a 20 to 50 year gap in terms of when they release this technology out. And then the low end, easy peasy kind of baby stuff will come out within about a 20-year gap. That's what it seems like. All right. So we laugh at people who still have flip phones today because we consider that outdated and worthless technology. They got new ones out now. They're coming back now. But now they're so advanced that the glass itself is covering the whole phone, and as they fold it, so now they have foldable, bendable glass. You can fold the whole thing over without breaking the glass. So that's where they're at with it now, bendable glass. Come on, man. See? So, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. So this is why sci-fi is going to be so important for you and your children to embrace this and start getting into this and really focus on it and accept it and try to comprehend what you're seeing. Watch it, like I said, in darkness and quiet, in peace and quiet, without nothing else on. No radio, phone ringing. Turn the phone off, man. Set it and get into it and watch it. And you should also realize that some technologies are so high tech, so life changing, so dangerous that they might let 100 years go by before they even let you know that they were working on that. Okay, so you may never, like I said, you may never know about some of this stuff. Well, one of the things that they also deal with on Star Trek is teleportation, being able to literally beam yourself from one area to another area in seconds. So if somebody can go to the teleporter on the ship and beam down to the planet. The ship is 50 miles up in space, orbiting the planet, all the way up there. And if you got into like a little ship and tried to come down through the atmosphere, it might take them an hour or maybe 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour to get down from up there down to the planet or more. But if they get into the teleporter, they can beam down and be down there instantly. All right? So the theory is that one day you might live in Texas, but your family lives in New York, and you could walk into your teleporter in your living room and beam yourself across the entire country and appear inside of their teleport all the way across the other side of the country within seconds. So you all could have your visit for the day, hang out, talk and laugh and barbecue and everything. And then you could even beam them back to your house with you, show them around. Maybe you just bought a new house, a new car. But yeah, this is where I'm at now. Here's my new house, a new car. And then they can beam back, go all the way back across the country, go home, and you stay in your house. And you guys can literally pop back and forth through these teleporters at will. Okay, maybe I'm sure you have to pay for it, but that's where they're trying to get to with this. So they're showing it in the show. They don't show them being used that casually on the show, but the premise is, the idea is that one day you may be able to. All right, so crisscrossing thousands of miles in seconds. All right, there's scientists who have also come forward on various radio talk shows and say that they already have this technology developed, but they're not going to release that anytime soon to the public because it would be too dangerous. It would disrupt every aspect of current society. But what it seems to be that, again, everything you see on Star Trek will eventually be a reality within 15 to 20 years, maybe not teleportation, but a lot of the other stuff. So that's about how fast that technology is moving, though. I can confirm that just from the fact that supercomputer that I bought back in 2009. It's 15 years later now, and today it's junk. It's garbage. The motherboard blew out. Paid a lot of money for that computer, and now it's just junk. You just take and throw it away. The newer computers that I'm using now, it's just a laptop, but it's way faster and more powerful than what I had. That was a huge computer that came up to my knee, weighed like 15 pounds. This little laptop doesn't weigh anything, and it blows the other one out of the water. Okay, and it was half the price of the big system that I had. So this is how fast this stuff is moving. 15, 20 years, it's all new technology, and the new technology can't even interface with the old technology. The new laptop that I had couldn't even talk to the old computer. You could share files back and forth, but that was about as far as you could go. That's how fast this thing is moving. So scientists admit also, they admit this, that this connection between science fiction and reality. All right, and this kind of a 20-year gap. So again, we miss a lot of this kind of stuff because we don't tend to follow this kind of thing. But check out this clip it's a Japanese American scientist named Michio Kaku, and he's a Japanese American theoretical physicist, futurist, and popularizer of science, as well as a professor of theoretical physics in the City College of New York and the City University of New York Graduate Center. So he talked about some of this in terms of how this ties in with Star Trek. So here's an actual physicist basically saying what I'm telling you right now. Check this out.
People should know this, that most of what you see in Star Trek and Star Wars is just an engineering problem. So for the Science Channel, for example, we go about trying to build prototypes for some of these things. What would a prototype ray gun, a prototype force field, a prototype lightsaber look like? And yeah, today they're impossible. But we tell you exactly where the impossibility begins and when they may become possible in the coming years.
What gets us to that point of technology to allow us to do these things, to travel?
Yeah, first you have to have the imagination to work out the physics. For example, teleportation. We physicists used to giggle when anyone mentioned Star Trek and teleportation. Ha, we used to say. I mean, teleporting a human across the room, I mean, it just boggles the imagination. We have so many atoms in our body, like 10 to the 27 atoms inside our body. However, on a microscopic scale, it's been done in Austria.
Yeah.
They did it. They teleported photons, particles of light, across the room. They now did it across the Danube River. That's 600 meters. Next, they're going to be teleporting photons to the space shuttle. They're asking permission from NASA to teleport into outer space, and then to the moon after 2020. We can teleport atoms, cesium, beryllium, and yttrium, and perhaps within this decade, molecules, CO2, H2O, maybe a gene, maybe a virus. So life forms perhaps will be able to teleport within a few decades. Now, Captain Kirk is harder. Let's be fair about it. Captain Kirk consists of 50 trillion cells. That's a lot of cells.
And I'm not sure I'd want to be one of the first to go when they start sending and teleporting people.
Yeah, you see, you have to die in order to be teleported. That's one of the drawbacks. You have to actually...
Oh, really? How come?
Well, it turns out that the information that you teleport from A to B, the information requires that the object A, dissolves and loses that information in order to have the information teleported to B. So you have to die to be teleported. And so then you have this paradox. Who is this person on the other side of the room? You just saw Captain Kirk die. You just saw him dissolve. But here's this fake Captain Kirk who has the same memories, same personality, same quirks. He says he's Captain Kirk. It makes you wonder if there's a soul or not. If all you do is send information from one point to the other, you die in the process, you're reincarnated over there. Who is this person? Does that mean there's a soul? If all it does is transmit information, is soul information? It really makes you wonder about these theological problems.
It sure does. It makes you wonder whether the soul teleports along, after the individual dies, if the soul goes to the new entity, or whether that just leaves.
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, we physicists are addressing this question because we now can teleport, at least on a microscopic scale. And, we're going to work our way up the scale slowly. So teleportation is always making news because the impossible has now become possible.
So you can see right there, Star Trek was one of the first shows to deal with force fields also around the ship, preventing it from taking damage. And, from other ships, they have the ships, the other ships are shooting missiles and laser beams at it, and they had a force field around the whole ship, and that kept it from having damage. They had laser guns, language translators, where they could go and get with communicate with an alien, and they could translate the alien's language instantly as it spoke. So we have some of that now. So again, you have translators now. They got translators in your computer. You can go to a web page that's in another language and then tell your computer to translate the entire page. We didn't have anything like that back just go back to the 90s, and they didn't have that, but now you do. So now you have translators. You have little handheld devices now. You all can talk into it and say what you want to say, and then tell it to translate what you just said to another language and hand it to somebody that speaks Japanese or German, and they can read it and see what you just said. So we have some of this stuff now. Eventually, it'll probably be just like a little earbud you can put in your ear, and they talk and it tells you what's being said. That's probably right around the corner. I can almost guarantee it because I can tell you that it's in audiobooks already. So if it's in science fiction, if it's in audiobooks, like I said, just a matter of years, and you'll be right there. So also in Star Trek, they had handheld medical scanners. Right now, if they want to scan you, they have to wheel a big machine into the room, or either wheel you over to it or wheel it over to you. It's this huge machine. But on the Star Trek, they just have a little handheld scanner in their hand, and all they do is wave it over your body, and it tells them everything that's wrong with you: your heart rate, your blood pressure, if you have any kind of infections, diseases, anything. Just that scanner, they can tell you everything. See? So that's how you're supposed to watch these shows. When you're dealing with sci-fi, you're supposed to kind of look at it like this, in terms of what's coming, what's been done, how does it tie in with reality, and it makes it really much more enjoyable because it's taking reality and putting it into areas that you never thought of before. All right, so all of that was shown in science fiction of the 1960s. But keep in mind, this stuff sounds crazy and futuristic, but this was just the 1960s. And today, most of it is so common that we don't even give it a second thought. You get these little flip phones and you just take and throw it in the corner when you get home. You know, I know I do with mine. I don't have a flip, but I have a, you know, it's a nice phone, but I just take it and I get home and just take and toss it in the corner. You know, I don't think anything about it. It's just, you know, I don't even want to be bothered. I don't even want to hear it ringing, you know, because I don't want to be bothered. Just put it in a drawer, close it up, and forget that I even had it. You know, I check it every so often. Oh, I had a message. I didn't even hear it ring. I wasn't listening for it. Okay, so we take this stuff for granted now, but back then it was completely science fiction. Nobody could imagine having a phone that you could get on something like the internet with and watch TV, movies, and videos right there on the little phone. Nobody would imagine that that's there. It's here today. All right. So further evidence of this is true in the internet itself. The internet itself is evidence of what I'm telling you. It was originally called ARPANET. I don't know if you knew that or not, but the internet was originally called ARPANET, which was first used. Check this out now. Wait a minute. Check. Y'all got to follow this, man. ARPANET was first used in 1969, but was only used by the military to create a secure and unbreakable line of communication for military personnel in times of war. It was not made available to the public until 1991. How much time is that? 22 years. See? So here we go again. 20. Bam. 22. So with all of that, I think you can see why Star Trek is going to be key for changing your thinking and getting you to start thinking and acting on a much higher level than what we've been doing. Okay. Now I do have to add this because you gotta be a little careful. Star Trek, the original series from the 60s, does have a ton of spin-offs and blockbuster movies, which can make it confusing and near impossible to follow. But there's one thread that seems to be the best at maintaining the lore and be able to follow the stories and such. So if you wanted to get into it, I might suggest that you start with Star Trek, the original series, which sets the pace for everything Star Trek that comes afterwards. All things are based on this original series. So you might do well to start with the original series. Now, that's it. It's an older show, very basic sets and costumes, very basic. A lot of people may not be able to relate to it because it doesn't have all of the high-tech stuff. But if you start with the basic, then when you do work your way up to the high-tech, you'll really be able to appreciate it a lot more. Okay? Because now you'll be into the characters. You'll be into their individual storylines. So that might be best to start with the original series. All right? Then after that original series, they came out with a new series based on that called Star Trek The Next Generation. Okay? That series came out, still has a huge following. There's still a lot of people that like that. So you would have Star Trek The Original Series, Star Trek The Next Generation. Both of those have their own movie series that came out along with those. Okay? And then they had another series that spun off from that, which was called Star Trek Voyager, which was pretty much, it was actually pretty good, but that one had a female captain for the first time, female captain running the ship. And I liked it. It didn't get as popular as the other two I just mentioned, but I thought it was a good series. Okay. I thought the acting was good, and you know, I thought she did a pretty good job on that show. So you might want to check that one out, Star Trek Voyager. Okay, so now you got 3 whole series of Star Trek that you could get into. Okay, then they had a whole lot of little extra shows and whatever in the middle that I never got into. Couldn't connect to them. It's just they didn't have the same energy. All right. But then here recently, you had this new series, Strange New Worlds, which is, it's called Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Now, this one is a prequel to everything. This one is supposed to actually take place before the original series. But I don't know that I would suggest watching this one first before you watch the original series, because the technology used in it is cutting edge. It's so advanced to watch this. It's so well done that you may not be able to relate to the original series anymore, because you'll be so used to watching all the high-tech stuff. But just from a story standpoint, all of the characters and everybody get introduced in this, and then you're supposed to be able to go watch the original series, and then there you have that. They may be getting ready to redo the entire original series. They may be getting ready to do a reboot on that. I don't know. They haven't heard anything about it, but it would make sense. But I don't. It was so classic. I don't know how they could pull that off again. I'd be shocked if they went that far, because it has such a loyal, hardcore following of fans on the original series. It would be very difficult to try to please them if they were going to try to redo that thing. You know, the original, I think, only went 5 years, something like that, 4 or 5 years, something like that, and then it got canceled. It may have been 2 years, I forget. But yeah, it didn't go that long, and it was actually a flop when it first came out, and people didn't go crazy about it. They couldn't connect to it. It was too, again, like I said, it's too out there, and they didn't connect. But after it got taken off the air, then more and more people started getting into it. More people found out about it, and it ended up with a cult following that are just dedicated to it today. All right, so pretty interesting. If you let yourself get into it, you'll see what I'm talking about. This is really interesting how they do this thing. So now, when you watch these, it's a little different. So it's not only just being in a cool environment where you can watch it, peaceful environment. But you also these are not like watching your Fred Flintstone and Scooby-Doo, where you can just go watch any episode and it doesn't matter, you just watch that episode. These, when you get into these kinds of shows, you want to start from season 1, episode 1, and watch, and then they progress the characters and progress the stories through the years. You start from the middle, you won't know what's going on. So part 2 is a continuation of part 1. Part 3 is a continuation of part 2. And they actually carry on the story like that. So, when you get into something like Martin, you can just go turn on Martin and Sanford and just watch that. Any episode will do. None of the episodes are connected to the previous episodes. It's very rare that they have a part 1 and part 2. Today on a very special episode of Sanford, and it's something like that. But that's rare. So, that's Star Trek. That's number 5. And it's a key element to changing your thinking, thereby changing your actions, giving you a glimpse of what's going to be in the world within the next 15 to 20 years. Okay, now, my number 4 pick of most badass TV series is Doctor Who. I know there's some fans out there that are flipping out because nobody ever talks about this show in the USA that I've ever seen, and certainly nobody black that I've ever seen. But yeah, I'm hip to Doctor Who, and this is one of the most fringe, out there, cutting edge shows that you can ever watch. I don't mean cutting edge in terms of the technology used to make it. I mean cutting edge in terms of the elements, plots, storylines, and now the technology that was used was very remedial in the early years when it first came out. Like literally, it was like vacuum cleaner hoses, that look like computer cables or whatever, hanging from the ceiling. Styrofoam cut into the shapes of whatever. But it got much better in the series that I'm recommending to you now, because that's been going on for so long that the technology has actually changed through the series. So it's certain episodes, certain series, certain collections. It's a huge collection, and then I'm recommending basically a certain grouping of that collection. Okay, and then those are the ones that actually have pretty good stuff, effects in there. Here's the thing. How important is this series? Why is people flip out if I say something about Doctor Who? Why is that so key? Why is that so important? This series has been so important to kind of, I guess you could say, the psyche, to the culture, to the subculture of science fiction, that it currently holds 2 Guinness World Records. One for the longest running science fiction series in the world. The first episode was broadcast in 1963. They didn't even have color TV back then. It was shown in black and white. The first color TV didn't drop in Britain until 1969. Do you see how fast this stuff is moving? Okay, so talk to young people today, and they think that the internet and color TV has always been there. But the truth is that all of this stuff actually is just really brand new. All of it is only 40 to 50 years old. If you go back 70 or 80 years, and it's like the Stone Age compared to today, okay? So it's going so fast that if you don't jump on board now, then the world is literally going to leave you behind. Millions of disenfranchised people who have nothing to offer society because they refuse to embrace technology and become a part of the future, all right? Only able to get jobs scrubbing toilets and mopping floors until they get robots to do even that. They already have robots out here that can sweep your floors up, ride around on your floor and with a little spinning brooms and stuff. They can already sweep the floor without you. If they get to where they can wipe the walls down, clean the windows, clean the toilets, and do the floors, you know how many people are going to lose their jobs? So you have to elevate your mind now so that you can start getting into higher level things such as computer repair, computer programming, computer maintenance, server networking of servers. If you're not going in that direction, then eventually you're going to get left behind. Everything is becoming computerized. They got cars that drive themselves, trucks that drive themselves. Even truck drivers are going to be out of a job here pretty soon because they won't need truck drivers anymore. They got trucks that can drive all day, all night, nonstop. They don't have to go to sleep. They don't have to go stop and go to the bathroom. They don't have to get food. These robot trucks, these automated trucks can drive from sun up to sundown. The only time they need to stop is for maintenance or fuel. And these tanks can carry like 400 or 500 gallons of fuel or more. Okay, so they can go a long time without having to stop. A driver can only go a couple hours, and he got to stop and get something to eat, go to the bathroom, get something to drink, get some coffee, So yeah, all of that's getting ready to wrap up. So anyway, yeah, if you let yourself get phased out because you couldn't keep up with the times, nobody is going to care. You can starve and die out on the street corner. Nobody is going to care. You can be out there begging for coins. Nobody is going to care. Nobody's giving you nothing. Maybe $1. Maybe somebody might stop and give you $1 or a half-eaten quarter pounder from McDonald's or something. Maybe, if you're lucky. Okay. So I know it sounds bleak and far-fetched. No, that can't happen. They wouldn't do that to us. They wouldn't. Yeah, okay. Have you seen the videos and photographs of Skid Row or the Kensington slums in Philly? It looks like it was staged in Hollywood, like an episode of The Walking Dead. I kid you not. Just so that you know I'm not BSing you, man. Check it out. Yeah, man, so you can see it. Ain't nobody running over there to help those people. That's been like that for a long time. You can't help them. They're all blasted out of their minds on drugs and alcohol. A lot of them have injected and drank so much poison that they actually have brain damage now. And they were already brain damaged before they got there. When you get that stuff and now they really messed up. You know, some of this is permanent. You know, what you saw there, that's the end for them. That's it. And some of them only 20, 30 years old and they're done. Okay, so either way, it's a wrap for probably every last one of them that you saw in that video. So most of them, you know, like I said, they look young. They you know, some of the women are still halfway attractive. You know, they're not all jacked up. You know, they hadn't been out there that long, but they're on their way. You know, this is what is at the end of letting yourself become totally disconnected from where society is going. You don't want to go there, then you can go your own direction and get left behind, and these are the people that have been left behind. So, you know, you didn't see nobody running over to help nobody in those videos. There wasn't nobody over there. It just was what it was. They just filmed it and just went home. At the end of that film, the guy that put the camera took his camera and got in his car and just took off and went back home. That was the end of it. Yeah, so you either upgrade, elevate, or join them. Okay? Climbing up to these higher levels and forcing your mind to expand is your only escape. You can study ancient Egypt, that won't save you. You can drop to your knees and pray till your legs get numb, that won't save you. You can build up your muscles until you're big and strong and nobody can beat you, that won't save you. Even shifting into a higher level of thinking and living might not save you. Everybody ain't gonna make it. There's just no escaping that. But it's the absolute best chance you got. Okay? All the crime, death, destruction, and decay that you saw in those clips takes place on these low levels. People with no knowledge, no skills, no hopes, no dreams, no goals, no drive, no ambition, nothing. And that's how you end up. But when you start thinking higher and moving higher, you start pursuing and developing your skills so that you can get there. Your skills are the rungs of the ladder. So if you picture a ladder, the rungs of the ladder, your skills are the rungs on that ladder. So the more skills you have, the higher you can climb on that ladder, and you can get up out of that level where all of that stuff is taking place. Okay, you don't have any skills, you can't climb up the ladder. You only know how to do one or two things, you can only get up one or two levels. Okay, so you right there, all this crap is going on right down here, you just living a little bit above it. So you're not that far, something could catch you. You know, it's no guarantee that you're going to be 100% safe up here, but you have just a greater, it's about improving your chances. Okay. So, yeah, so once you have the better skills, then you can use those skills to get better jobs, and you can build your own businesses. You can move into better neighborhoods. You can get you a $400,000 or $500,000 home. Even a $100,000 home is good. You know, it will pull you up out of the slums and ghettos, give you a nice, clean lifestyle. Walking around in shorts and a tank top, sipping green tea all day. Stop off at the bookstore. You know, head across the street. You know, buy you a new yoga mat. Head back home. Watch a new episode of Doctor Who. And dog, you're living the life now. You made it. Okay. You know, so you ain't doing none of that down in the hoodie hood because there's too many other things for you to be worried about. So, speaking of which, let's get back on. So I told you, Doctor Who broke 2 Guinness records. The first being that, like I said, it's the longest running sci-fi show in history. And the other record that it set a new world record for is the largest ever simulcast of a TV drama. When it was in its 50th anniversary episode, it was broadcast in 94 countries across 6 continents, all at the same time. Okay? 94 countries across 6 continents, all at the same time, to celebrate their 50th anniversary episode. Meanwhile, you and nobody that you know has ever even heard of the show. See? Or if you did, then you heard about it like me, but you didn't pay it any attention. I actually remember seeing it a few times back when I was just a little guy, man. I was in preteens, maybe 8 or 9, and it looked really weird back then. It was a stage, it looked like a stage play on TV. I don't know if y'all remember, but sometimes they would show a play, or they'd show a play on TV, and it looks very different from a movie, and you can tell it looked like somebody filmed it on a little handy cam type of thing. That's what it looked like. It looked very remedial, and you know, everybody was dressed weird, and the guy was running around with a top hat and a scarf around his neck. I was like, what the hell is that? You know, all the little monsters running around looked like they were made out of styrofoam. Yeah, I couldn't connect to it, but it was always on. Like every couple of days I'd see it was on. I didn't know what days it was coming on, but I know certain times I'd turn it on, and then there it is. It was always at night, like late night. And you know, I'm on there, you know, looking for Benny Hill. You know what I'm saying? You know, yeah, I don't know if y'all remember that, but I'm looking out there looking for Benny Hill, man. And then they had this little English guy running around with the scarf around his neck and a top hat, and it was just strange looking, and it's the styrofoam monsters. And I was like, oh man, I can't get into this thing, whatever. But I remember seeing the title, and I knew it was Doctor Who, but I didn't know what that was. It just didn't mean anything to me. Years go by, and as an adult, I'm flipping channels, and I see on the screen this one day, Doctor Who. Like, what? Wait a minute. Why do I remember that? Why is it? You know, and it just dawned on me. I said, well, that's not that show from way back then. It can't be. Nah, that's not that. But it was. It had different actors and different special effects, and everything had been upgraded, but it was the same show. But I remembered it from when 8, 9 years old. I remembered it. So, like, wow, how long has this thing been on? And that's when I started to realize that this is something different. This isn't, you know, just a normal show. This has been on since I was like 8 years old, you know. So, you know, the imagery now was different. This guy was weird, running around, you know, very frantic, like a genius. Geniuses don't move like normal people. Geniuses, their mind is always, you know, in action like this. And so very few of them can stop and sit still and just do one thing, you know. It's hard. So, you know, but a lot of them have enough discipline that they can stop and force themselves to focus. And then that's the difference, is that they know how to control the chaos. All right. And you have to get to that point. Okay. So, yeah, that was that show. It had upgraded, but it was the same thing. And so this time, I had decided to sit down and watch it and give it a chance and see what it was. I was older now, and you know, I was able to understand things that I wouldn't have understood at 8, 9 years old. I was able to relate to it a little bit more now. So I said, well, let me just check this out and see what this is. I remembered it, but why is it still on? This is weird. Let me see what they're talking about. And I stopped and I started watching it, and it was absolutely fascinating. So here's the synopsis of the story, Doctor Who. I probably would have watched it a lot sooner if somebody had told me this. Nobody told me this. So maybe I can tell you some things that might help you to get into it. So this is the synopsis of Doctor Who. Doctor Who is about an alien time traveler known as the Doctor. The full name of Doctor Who is rarely used as the name of the character, okay? Typically only in the end credits. The Doctor is, they never say like Doctor Who, you're who, Doctor Who. They never say Doctor Who, they always call him the Doctor, okay? He's a member of a race of beings called the Time Lords from the planet, his home planet is Gallifrey. Most Time Lords obey a strict policy of non-interference in the events of the universe, but the Doctor is a renegade who stole one of their time machines and escaped his planet, not only from their planet, but from their time. Okay, he left their whole timeline. All right, the time machine was originally able to disguise itself as almost anything in order to blend in with the environment that it landed in. But after being damaged, it now permanently resembles a telephone booth from old London. Okay, this oddly shaped time machine is called a TARDIS, T-A-R-D-I-S, which is actually an acronym which means time and relative dimension in space. All right, the Doctor uses it to travel through space and time all over the universe, willfully intervening in history in order to fight evil and aid the oppressed. Okay, the most unique aspect of this show that really fascinated me was that he doesn't use weapons. All right, he uses something that he calls a sonic screwdriver, which he can use to open locks, control or reprogram almost any computer, and affect electrical circuits and such like that. Okay, so if your car was having trouble, he'd be able to scan it with his sonic screwdriver and tell you what was wrong with it. He could probably make it start with the device and maybe even adjust the computer and in the car and make it run more efficiently and give you 200 miles per gallon just with this little device. But what he couldn't do is fix a broken fan belt or a flat tire with it. Okay, so that kind of thing he couldn't do, but he could reprogram the computer, make it run more efficiently, give you 200 miles per gallon, that kind of thing. All right. Maybe you don't have a phone signal on your phone. He could get the screwdriver on there, scan it, you know, reprogram it, and change your whole phone, and you could call anywhere from anywhere around the planet at any time of the day without ever being charged for it. You could call and cancel your phone account, and your phone would still work. That kind of thing. That's you know, the kind of stuff that he can do with this. Okay. So, but just using that device and his far beyond human intelligence, he's able to stop alien invasions, prevent war, even overthrow kings and queens. Races all over the universe know of him and are scared to death to cross him because they know what he can do. But he never picks up guns and just starts blasting anybody away. He doesn't operate like that. So how do you overthrow a kingdom without firing a single shot? See, that's what this show is. That's the kind of stuff it deals with. There's some funny aspects to it, but it's really sci-fi in its purest form, but presented in the form of an extremely high-level suspense thriller, so that you can clearly see that Doctor Who is far from your standard fare. There's really nothing else like it on TV or in the movies. There's movies, you know, and movies and shows that have tried to emulate to some greater or lesser degree. They tried to kind of copy it a little bit, but none have ever surpassed it and done what it does. They can't do what it does better than it can. These people that make this show are so creative with the show that even when the actors playing the role of the doctor, whoever actually has that lead role, when they decide that they don't want to do it anymore, all right, they do an episode where the doctor gets hurt or close to death, and then this alien is able to regenerate, all right, but whenever he does, it comes back looking totally different than it did before. And this is how they change actors. All right, so it's extremely creative, and this is how they've kept it running for so long, going on 60 years. So yeah, the show is out there, man, and your mind has to really be on another level to be able to connect to it and follow it through every episode, season after season. Look it up online, buy the series, whatever it takes, but you got to connect to it at some point and stretch that mind into even higher realms. Now, I did say it's been on for almost 60 years. So, of course, you can't watch 60 years of shows. That's crazy. But the good news is I personally came into the series during what is known as Series 1. There's a ton of old shows, as I mentioned, but it seems that they have started putting them out on DVD now. Okay? So, as I started watching this show, so right when I started looking at it, these were the episodes that was going on DVD. All right, it was kind of a whole new generation, a whole new genre. You know, nice special effects and everything was really good. And that's kind of when I started coming in. The new era, the new wave, the new generation of this Doctor Who. So I haven't seen these hundreds of episodes or whatever back before. I don't have an interest in going back that far. So I thought this Series 1 was pretty good and really interesting. And this modernized version was like, wow, this is, really cool. Now, this Series 1 started with an actor named Christopher Eccleston. And he was the doctor. And I came in mid-season on the show when I started watching it. And, I didn't really remember a lot about it other than I was on a level that I could understand it and enjoy it, so I thought it was cool. All right. When I was younger, I was still locked in shows like Sanford and A-Team and Knight Rider, Cosby Show, stuff like that. So Doctor Who was too far out of my range and comprehension. So later on, I understood it. Amazon has his full collection on sale in a 3-disc set for $41.49. All right. The link to purchase it is in the description box. All right, below the video, you'll see a description box, right where the title of the show is, and with that should be like a little hook to the side that you can click and open that up. All right, so that was Series 1. So the next series is what locked me in as a Doctor Who fan for life. The actor is named David Tennant, and he really and truly pulled it off as this weird time-traveling alien that has a problem relating to humans, but doesn't want to see humans or any other sentient beings get hurt. So that when he just took it to another level, just as the actor, he is now known as the fan favorite to play that role. His full collection is also down there for sale. His is a 14-disc set that is on sale for $30. Okay, so that's down there. All right, that's right on Amazon. You can pick that up. Okay, so the third series that they had was another actor when he changed again by the name of Matt Smith. You can tell that they tried to get an actor that resembled David Tennant, but the flair and the charisma just wasn't quite there. He wasn't bad, and it was still a good series with him in it, but I think that there just may have been a bit of disconnect with the fans because it wasn't Tennant, So you looked at him, he almost kind of looked like him. He had a little swish of hair coming down, but it still wasn't him, and that was a little disappointing for everybody. So although I still watched it and I remember enjoying the series, I really don't remember a lot about it. Plus, with this being a British program, it was a little difficult to follow the show consistently because it didn't always come on as regular as our local shows. I watched the Tenet series online, and then all of the episodes were lined up and ready to view. So if you look at it online, season 1, episode 1, everything right there. All the show titles, everything right there in order. You just click from one to the next to the next. So it's real easy to follow like that. If you buy the whole series, of course, you won't have a problem. You can just watch them in the discs are ordered. 1, 2, 3, whatever. So, all of those ones that were online had gotten taken down by the time I started watching the series. So I ended up purchasing, I bookmarked the series for purchase, and eventually I'm going to get all of those series that I liked and watch them again, because it was worth watching. It was really good. So I can appreciate it now. The last series, the third series, Amazon has now for sale for about $22. You'll be able to get that whole third series. And there was 2 more doctors after them, and they did have a woman doctor. The first woman doctor ended up coming in, but I personally couldn't get into the other ones. The one was, after the one that to run directly after Matt was too old. Matt Smith. The one after Matt Smith was too old. It was this older guy, white curly hair, and he had him trying to run around like he's saving the world, and I couldn't get into that. He was trying to act all tough and commanding, like you're going to do what he says, and it just didn't work for me. The other one was this weird blonde woman that was running around. Her clothes were weird. And she kind of dressed like Urkel with stripes across her shirt and a long jacket, and it didn't work. Pastel colors, rainbow colors, and it didn't work. She was just real goopy, and she was just trying to be all hardcore, like you're going to do what she tells you to do, and she's trying to command these alien races, and I'll wipe out your entire race. And it just didn't come off with her standing there saying this, and it's just like, whatever. So I couldn't get into it with her. Now, supposedly, I think maybe in 2022, 2023, I think 2023 or 2024, they're supposed to change again and have the first black guy as the doctor. So we'll see what that turns out to be. Maybe cool. I don't know. It's a roll of the dice whenever they change it up. Everybody puts their own twists on it, and it either works or it doesn't. The third series that you need to check out, and honestly, as I write this, I am at the beginning of this series myself. I actually watched it online years. Now, we're off of Doctor Who. We're going into the third show, the third series that you need to check out. Okay. So we did Star Trek, we did Doctor Who. Now we're moving into number 3. Okay. I watched this online years ago, but it was so good that I decided to buy the whole collection on Blu-ray DVD. Almost as soon as I started watching it, I put the order in. It was that good. I wasn't ready to get it when I first saw it, so I canceled the order and I just left it in my little wish list, and said one day I'm gonna get the whole thing. It was pretty expensive. I think it was like over, what was it, $75 or something like that. You hear the prices I'm giving you. You can get this whole collection for $20, this one for $30. This one was like $60 or $75 when I first saw it, and I was just like, nah, I'm not, But it ended up over the years dropping down, and I finally picked it up. So you got to plan these things out. The timing has to be right. You got to have you got to have time to watch it. You got to have money to watch it. Plus, you have to have the mental aptitude and the focus to put in on it. So if you're going through things, maybe going through a divorce, you're going through, financial hardships or whatever, you're not going to go and spend $45, $50, $60 on a TV series. You got other things to worry about right now. But later on, when you're feeling better and your money is back up, you might say, hey, I'm going to treat myself, and you might go and get one. So, but the timing has to be right. So this kind of stuff, a lot of people don't have that mental aptitude to absorb these types of kind of high-level things in their 20s and 30s. So some of us still, we can't understand much more beyond comedy shows on even into 40s and 50s. So we miss out on a lot of good stuff because we stay stuck in that same old same old, like I mentioned earlier. So now number 3 is one that I'd be shocked, again, if anybody even knew that it existed. It's called Sherlock Holmes.
John, it's going to take you a while to adjust to civilian life, and writing a blog about everything that happens to you will honestly help you.
Nothing happens to me.
How fresh?
Just in. 67 natural causes. Used to work here. I knew him. He was nice.
Fine. We'll start with the writing crop.
You'd want me for a flatmate.
You're the second person to say that to me today.
Who was the first?
The name's Sherlock Holmes and the address is 221B Baker Street.
Who are you? What do you do?
I'm a consulting detective.
What does that mean?
It means when the police are out of their depth, they consult me.
I'm breaking every rule letting you in here.
Yes, because you need me.
God help me.
The game, Mrs. Hudson, is on.
Look at him dashing about. My husband was just the same. But you're more the sitting down type, I can tell.
What is it like in your funny little brains? It must be so boring.
You're not haunted by the war, Dr. Watson. You miss it.
Sherlock Holmes is a great man, and I think one day he might even be a good one. That's how you get your kicks, isn't it? Risking your life to prove you're clever.
Sherlock, Season 1. Why didn't I think of that? Because you're an idiot. No, don't be like that. Practically everyone is.
Now wait, once again, I know everybody's like, oh man, here we go. Ain't nobody trying to hear none of that. Okay, but no, I'm telling you, it's not what you think. We've all heard of Sherlock Holmes at some point or other growing up. It may even have been required reading in your school. It was in some of mine. You know, you had to read the different Sherlock Holmes books over the summer. So I had some of those assignments. I'm glad when I went to school that, you know, I went when I went because you know, we had books like we had to read Sherlock Holmes. Today they got them reading Uncle Tom's Cabin and I Have Two Daddies. So yeah, I'm good with reading Sherlock Holmes when I did. But this Sherlock Holmes series, this DVD series, you know, look, you know, I'm like you on that. When I first saw this online years ago, I said the same thing as you, man. Anybody trying to watch no Sherlock Holmes, man, go ahead with that, okay? This dude running around in jolly old England solving murder mysteries. You know, man, I'm not into CSI and 24 Hours and all of that. That's not my kind of show, okay? That stuff bores me to tears. But I was bored one day and decided to just watch an episode. I was hooked in about 15 minutes. It was amazing. I was hooked on it. It was just like, wow, what is this? You know, when did this come out? How long have I been missing this? You know, 15 minutes, and I was like, I'm on it, okay? So when I started watching that episode, I was like, oh, nah, man, we got to do this right. This is actually on point. So I went back and had to find Season 1, Episode 1. Let's start from the beginning so I can get into this thing, okay? And as I call it, S1E1. So when you see on any of my videos, S1E1, S1E3, S1E4, that's Season 1, Episode 3. Okay, so I went back, Season 1, Episode 1, S1E1. Okay, yeah. So I went back and found that, and that's the same thing if you watch Japanese animation. You want to go back to their Season 1, Episode 1. Japanese animation also follows along with the progression of their characters. If you just try to jump in the middle, it won't make sense to you. So you watch anime, you got to go back S1E1 and start it from the beginning now. So yeah, so when if you watch anything with like Bugs Bunny, Mickey Mouse, these American format type characters, nothing changes. It doesn't matter when you watch that. The clothes don't change, the characters don't change, they never grow up, you know, and that's just pretty much how that is. There's a few that broke out of it, you know, somewhat Flintstones had children and the little children grew up and stuff. But that's really far few and in between. Usually they don't do that. All right. Yeah, I can't even watch crap like that anymore. A philosopher and a poet named Ralph Waldo Emerson from the mid-1800s once wrote that the mind once stretched by a new idea can never return to its original dimensions. And that's exactly what's going to happen to you once you let your mind begin to encompass this new content. So yeah, start with season 1, episode 1, and you'll get the full experience. So check this out. The actor playing the role of Sherlock Holmes is none other than your boy, Benedict Cumberbatch. You might not even know who that is. The name is this weird long name. Some of y'all might know. Some of y'all might have it already. Yeah. That's your boy, Dr. Strange, in Marvel movies now. Before Dr. Strange, he was Sherlock Holmes with his own series. And let me tell you, he plays the role of Sherlock Holmes with the same intensity that he played Dr. Strange. So that acting, that style, that flair, it comes through in the series. So if you like Doctor Strange, the way, in his movies and in the Avengers and all of that, then you'll dig this series. If you like the guy, it's good. He really does a good job with it. So I think that this guy also, he would have made an awesome doctor on Doctor Who series. If they had let him be a doctor, that would have been phenomenal. And that would have really have taken that series to a whole nother level. I wonder if anybody ever suggested that. Maybe somebody will see this or the videos or something and contact the studio and get him in for a few episodes. If he just did a Sherlock Holmes movie, it would just be awesome. So yeah, they probably couldn't afford him though. I'm sure his price range now is just through the roof. That's Marvel's whole face man now. They're using him as the face for all of Marvel now. So yeah, I'd be shocked if anybody else could afford to get him. All right. So anyway, I don't know if any of you have ever read the old Sherlock Holmes books, but they were actually surprisingly good. If you like brain teasers and putting together clues to figure out the whole puzzle, that's what Sherlock Holmes is all about. It's a grand showcase of logic and deductive reasoning taken to new heights in every episode. So here's a breakdown of the show premise from wikipedia.com with my own flares thrown in, of course. Here we go. So the series depicts consulting detective Sherlock Holmes, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, as he solves various mysteries beyond the capabilities of normal police in modern-day London. Holmes is assisted by his roommate and friend, Dr. Watson, played by Martin Freeman, who has returned from the military service in Afghanistan with the Royal Army Medical Corps and maintains an online blog of Holmes's life and his cases that he's working on. So, although Inspector Lestrade from the Metropolitan Police, as well as many others, are suspicious of Holmes at first, over time, his exceptional intellect and bold powers of observation persuade them of his value, partially due to Watson's blog and partly due to Holmes's own growing notoriety. Holmes becomes a sort of reluctant celebrity with the press, who also reporting on his cases and eccentric personal lifestyle. All right, they kind of get in the way a little bit. All right, but he's does his thing, and they try to run behind him, and everybody. The only thing people love more than an icon is tearing one down. So if you ever, as you work your way up the ladder, once you become famous, that's when you got to start really being careful, because that's usually when it flips to where now you're a superstar. Now they want to pull you back. So, and that kind of this show kind of reflects that a little bit. All right. Eventually, even ordinary people, as well as the British government itself, end up asking Sherlock Holmes for his help. The British government ends up going in there and asking him for help. Okay. the series does depict a variety of crimes and perpetrators, Holmes maintains an ongoing conflict with his arch enemy, Jim Moriarty, which is keeping in line with the novels. This is the same problem that he has in the novels. That's his arch nemesis, Jim Moriarty. Moriarty is always behind him, one step ahead of him or behind him in the novels, and that carries through with this series. It's pretty cool the way that they work it in there. But the most interesting part of the whole series turns out not to be Holmes solving nearly impossible crimes, but his personal battles with his own inner demons, and what it's like for a super genius to be trapped in a world of normal people. In the end, that's the underlying backstory for this entire series, and it's absolutely fascinating to watch. So, why would I suggest a series like this? Because in today's world of brain-melting, who's the daddy TV and sitcoms where tripping over your own feet is considered good writing, a show that exhibits extreme examples of logical thinking and high intelligence and deductive reasoning at its finest should be required viewing for everybody intelligent enough to recognize that there's a problem. If enough people see logic and reason being utilized, that skill might spark to life in more people. And those high-functioning intellectuals can then add their own mental powers to help offset some of the insanity going on in society today. So yes, I think that this amazing series is mandatory viewing. All right, if you can get that whole series, I'll put the link to that on there. I forget what that's selling for now. It changes too from month to month. If you don't get it this month, in 3 or 4 months, it may be higher, it may be lower. So I'm thinking it was around maybe $20 or $30. I'm not sure, but good collection to have in there. And you can let your children watch it, let your grandchildren watch it, let your friends come over and let them watch it. And everybody who watches this, if you can get people to sit down and be quiet for an hour, which is almost impossible, but if you can, for the ones that are willing to do that, you can affect their mind and get them to elevate their thinking with these shows. So you have your own little brainwashing program going on in your house, but you're brainwashing them up instead of down. See? This kind of thing, I'm telling you, can really have an impact. The number 2 greatest series that I've ever seen is yet another one that I've never heard anybody black talk about. And yet it was blowing up all over the internet. It was nationwide phenomenon called House.
house.
The first time I saw this show pop up, I was still paying for cable, and I saw ads for it on just on TV. You know, little ads popping up for House, whatever. I wasn't trying to pay all that, any attention. Didn't really quite know what it was about. All I could figure is that it was some kind of a doctor show. But I was just finishing up watching the last of the ER series. I don't know how many people remember ER. What was his name? Eric LaSalle was in that, So I had just finished watching ER. ER had just got to their last episode, and I was seeing, these promos for House. And I was like, man, I can't do another doctor show. I just finished ER, man. I'm done with that. And that show was deep, man. I'm not trying to, maybe I'll look at it another time, And I left it at that. So then they even started showing promos for another hospital doctor show called Grey's Anatomy. And I was like, oh my God, enough is enough with all these doctors and hospital shows. It was just ridiculous, so I couldn't get into that. Okay, so years went by, and I was kicking back one day, flipping through my little subscription channels or whatever, and I'm looking for a good series to watch, just chilling. Well, I see this thing for House pop up. I said, oh, yeah, I remember that show. Man, damn, that was on years ago. Is that still on? Shocked, like, wow, that's still on, So I saw that the series had ended, but I also saw that it had lasted for 8 seasons. I'm like, wow, it must have been pretty good. It lasted for 8 seasons, damn. I scroll back, go back to the beginning, right? S1E1, and start watching it. And I'm telling you, 10 or 15 minutes into it, I was hooked. This thing was, I started to realize slowly that this thing was a phenomenon. I'm into it now. This is, wow. Now I started to realize why people had, been talking about it a little bit on the, advertising. It had high ratings and reviews, and like, wow, so now I'm starting to get it. The acting was top shelf. Instantly you could see that this was top shelf acting. And I immediately understood why there were 8 seasons of it, and I couldn't wait to get through them all. And that became my dinner time entertainment for like the rest of that year. Okay, so what's the premise of the show? Okay, let's check back with Wikipedia again, and I'm gonna throw a few flares in there for you. House is an American medical drama television series that originally ran on the Fox network for 8 seasons from November 16, 2004 to May 21st, 2012. Yeah, see, that's a long damn time for a TV series. The series maintains the series' main character is Dr. Gregory House, played by actor Hugh Laurie, an unconventional misanthrope. Misanthrope is for people that don't know, it's people who don't like other people. It's people that can't connect very well to other people. Matter of fact, you might even actually just hate other people. That's basically kind of who he is. Really just don't want to be bothered. Leave me alone. He's an unconventional, misanthropic medical genius who, despite his dependence on pain medication, leads a team of diagnosticians at the fictional hospital that they work at called Princeton Plainsboro Teaching Hospital, PPTH, in New Jersey. It's based in New Jersey. All right. House often clashes with his fellow physicians, including his own diagnostic team, because many of his hypotheses about patients' illnesses are based on his own subtle and controversial insights. It's like, how you get a gut feeling. So he knows things, and he has so much information that he's able to draw on that information and piece puzzle pieces together and figure out what these people have And everybody else is pissed off with him. There's no way that can work because it's not in the book. You know, a lot of people can only go by what's in the book, and they only see the world in black and white. And if that's all you got, you're already screwed, man. You know, you got people out here who can go beyond the book. They can go beyond the squares of society, the little corners that people set up for you and say they'll go beyond this point. And there are certain ones that do and can. And individuals like that are the ones that become individuals like this, as in this story. Okay, and that's basically who he is. He's a genius and is able to discern things almost intuitively and come to the correct conclusion the majority of the time. But, you know, as I say, other doctors just want to stick to the book. And meanwhile, some guy over on the bed is gasping for air. And while everybody is over here arguing, House will just go over and do the damn procedure and have the guy breathing again before the other ones even know that it's already over. That's kind of where this is at. By flouting his hospital rules and procedures, this frequently leads him into conflict with his boss, the dean of medicine. House only has one true friend in the whole show, which is a guy named Dr. James Wilson, whom he frequently alienates and pushes away due to his own innate issues, which he has a tendency to blame on his friends. So whenever something goes wrong, he blames it on Wilson. Okay. The show received high critical acclaim and was consistently one of the highest rated series in the United States. See, this is very reminiscent of what's going on in the world today, in terms that this guy might break the rules, but he's going in and getting the job done and helping people while everybody else is still arguing about the rules and the law. All right. The premise on Wikipedia calls him misanthropic, but you got to kind of wonder about that because of the fact that, well, he kind of acts like it on the show, but only towards certain people. People, I think, tend to be misanthropic, you know, not wanting to be around people until they find other people that are a little bit closer to their own level. And at that point, are you really misanthropic? If you're able to relate to people that's on your level, or are you know? So I don't know. It'd be interesting to do a study on that. The people hate people only as long as those people are not on their level. And if they find people that are close to their level, are they more open to those people? At which point they're not really misanthropic. I don't know. That'd be interesting research. So he basically has dedicated his life, you know, to helping people, which I think, again, kind of takes him out of that bag. Maybe that's not the right word for him. So I think you can really only have these types of contemplations when you watch these types of shows. Or maybe I should say, when you watch these types of shows, you're more likely to have these types of contemplations. Okay? This kind of stuff pops up more in your head when you watch stuff like this, because, you know, as you're watching it, it's planting seeds, and then later on at night, you're going to bed that night, and you're thinking about what you just watched, and all this stuff is in your head, and it's just like, wow, like I said, it changes how you think. All right? You got to wonder if you're ever going to be in a situation where you are being asked to make life and death decisions on a daily basis with people stopping you. How would you act? People telling you you can't do that, and you know that's what needs to be done. How would you act towards those people? There are people that are out here and have these types of jobs and have to make these types of decisions and have these same types of problems, but they aren't in the mainstream. You don't really see these people on a daily basis. So I think that more people, especially black people, would do well to start watching shows like House, Sherlock Holmes, Star Trek, Doctor Who, and any other show in the same vein. Learning to develop and expand your logic and reasoning circuits really can and will absolutely change your life. House is one of the best shows that you could possibly watch for so many reasons. There literally should be a college course dissecting the events and emotions and interactions depicted on every episode. I think that would be pretty phenomenal. That would be pretty phenomenal for anyone taking that class to be able to dissect this show. And that there's enough material there for years of study to be able to go in and check out the human psyche. So obviously the writers and the actors involved represented the pinnacle of their field, all right? And, they only got the best of the best first. These shows that I'm talking about, these are the best of the best that wrote, produced, and directed these shows, okay? And that's why you don't really see a lot of that anymore today. Now today they're more focused and worried about pushing some kind of rainbow agenda, and they're absolutely missing out on what could be instant classics if they let people who were experts in the field, as opposed to the agenda, experts in the field that they're doing, experts in directing and producing and writing, and let them get back in, and you could have more shows like this. But whatever, that's obviously that's not the direction that people are going right now. But I think it's going to make a comeback because people are sick of the other stuff that's been coming out, and like I said, canceling their cable left and right, so that's what's going on now. So I think you may start seeing a comeback with this kind of thing within the next couple of years, because these other things are getting shut down pretty fast. People are sick of it. So this brings us to my number one final favorite series, my absolute top favorite series of all time. We got to get a drum roll for this one. Bam. Yes, sir. Battlestar Galactica. Man, I'm telling you, that show. Okay, look, I already know what you're thinking. Why would I pick this show over all the other ones? You pick this over The Punisher. You pick this one over Daredevil. You pick this over CSI. You pick this over Walking Dead. Yes, all day. And I'll tell you why. Because as you can see from the previous selections, each and every show was teaching you something. You just had to be sharp enough to catch it. Okay? See what I'm saying? So Star Trek tells you what's coming in the next 20 to 30 years. Sherlock Holmes is the epitome of logic and reason. Something that people today need to master more than anything else. All right? It's also a glimpse into the mind of a genius, and also shows you just how close a genius can be to becoming a madman. All right? The same thing with the series House. It's a study of the human mind at its peak. Again, playing with that thin line between genius and insanity. Doctor Who is a roller coaster ride of fringe level science, time travel, alternate dimensions, parallel universes with a scary peek at how small man really is in comparison to the rest of the universe. So what does Battlestar Galactica bring? Well, let me give you the premise of the show first. First thing you need to realize is that there were two separate TV series. One from the 80s, which is not the one I'm referring to. They released a remake in 2003, and that's the one that you need to look for. You'll know it when you see it because it stars an actor which has been one of everybody's favorite for a very long time, Edward James Olmos. Best known for his role as Lieutenant Martin Castillo in one of the most beloved super hot TV series of the 80s, Miami Vice. In Battlestar Galactica, he's the captain of a massive Battlestar class carrier named Galactica. In the show, a human civilization, follow this now, in the show, a human civilization has migrated from their ancestral homeworld of Kobol to a group of planets known as the 12 colonies. The 12 colonies have warred for decades with a cybernetic race of artificial intelligent beings known as the Cylons. Intelligent beings that sought the extermination of the human race. The Cylons offer peace to the humans, which proves to be a trap. The Cylons, in conjunction with human traitors, carry out a massive attack on the 12 colonies and on the colonial fleet of starships that protect them. These attacks devastate the colonial starfleet, lay waste to the colonies, and virtually destroy their populations. Scattered survivors flee into outer space aboard any available spaceship. They get into whatever they can. These little ragtag ships, and they all just flee the planet and go off, flee the colonies and go off out into space. They don't even know where they're going. They just got to get away. Okay? Of the entire colonial fleet, only the Battlestar called Galactica appears to have survived the Cylon onslaught. The Galactica and its fleet of fighter ships called Vipers lead a ragtag fleet of survivors in search of the fabled 13th colony, known only as Earth. I mean, damn. Have you ever heard a story like that before? I mean, that's how deep these shows used to be back then, man. We talking, what, 2003? And you go back further, and but it was based on the show that came from the 80s. So the 80s, for some reason, comic books is when you saw Thor like really throwing down to the point in the comic books that he had to be careful because his power could literally destroy the entire planet. That was the Thor that I grew up reading in the comic books. The one that they had in the movies was just a strong man that could fly and could bring down electricity a little bit and shock somebody. He was nothing close to the one that I grew up reading in the comic books. The stuff from the 80s was off the chain, man. I don't know who those people were, where they came from, but this series also was based on a series from the 80s, and maybe that's why it's on the level that it is. But you don't hear anything this heavy, this deep being coming out of this day and age. So that alone was just phenomenal. The show was 4 seasons long. Plus they had web episodes, the episodes that didn't show with the series on TV. You had to log into a website to watch certain other episodes. Okay. And then they also had released a prequel called Chrome and Blood, which was supposed to be Olmos, or the captain, before he actually became who he was in that show. So they did a prequel again. Okay, so there's quite a bit of content for this show, for this series. But what I'm telling you is that as you watch it, there's an underlying secret that this show hints at, but doesn't make obvious until you're basically right at the end. Okay, the whole thing is so well done and above the norm that it actually developed a cult following behind it, you know, like a lot of the other ones, okay? It's not as strong as Star Trek and Star Wars, all right? It didn't get to that level, but it's strong enough that it's 2022 and people are still talking about this series from 2003. They're still purchasing the entire series online. So if you are dedicated to elevating your mind and consciousness, then watching these 5 series will definitely give you a different perspective on things and make you begin to consider this world in ways that you never would have if you miss them. All right. Now, I know how a lot of people like to watch TV, and I'm telling you, if you go back to your old ways with this, then you're just wasting your time. Okay. You have to focus and follow the story, which continues from one episode to the next. You don't just half watch one while you hold a conversation with somebody, then jump around to a different episode, and you don't know one from the next or whatever you're watching, and you're not following them, you're not watching them in order, and you don't care. Okay, well, you're not going to get anything out of it like that. So I had no idea that this is how most of our people watch TV. You know, with this just kind of wild, chaotic, haphazard, all over the place type of premise. You know, I'd call a girl on the phone, hey, what's up? What's going on? What are you up to? Da 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 da. We're talking, and she's sitting here trying to talk, and all I'm hearing in the background is her radio, and I'm like, and I'm talking for a while because I'm like, surely she's going to figure out here in a minute that we can't really have a conversation with all that music playing back there. So she'll turn it off in a minute. I don't have to say anything. No, she's still got the music on, and I eventually have to say, damn, what's all that noise back there? Can you go turn off the TV or the radio? Oh, okay, yeah. I'm like, I had to tell you that? But yeah, this is people, they watch TV with the radio on, kids screaming and crying, the phone ringing. They're, in the kitchen washing dishes, and the show is on in the living room, okay? And you'll ask them later, did you watch that show? Yeah, I saw it. No, they didn't see it. They had it on while they were washing dishes, but in their mind, they saw the show. So if you're doing it like that, like I said, you're wasting your time, okay? So you have to focus and get into this stuff and give it your full attention, or it will not make any sense to you. All right? So if you get sleepy, you start dozing, get yourself a cup of coffee so you can stay into, so you can stay focused. Get a cup of coffee. Get your coffee before you even sit down. All right? If you're not going to do that, or you're not into it, then, you're wasting time. Okay? Don't watch it until your kids are all asleep. Make sure everybody's in the bed. Maybe you can only watch this stuff at 2 o'clock in the morning. Let everybody go to bed, and then you put it on at 2 o'clock in the morning and check out an episode. All right. These shows really aren't for kids anyway. Okay. A lot of you all might have a show planned, but you're in the kitchen. Like I said, you're cooking. Kids running around, screaming, dogs barking. But you got a TV on in the background, and for you, you're watching it. And again, like that's not going to work. All right. So, with all that being said, if you can get into it, if you can stay focused, you will see changes beginning to take place in your life. There's nothing that anyone can do to help, teach, or advise you on any level for somebody that can't stay quiet and focus for even a single hour. Okay, during these videos, actually you should be sitting there with a notepad and a pen for a lot of them. Okay, watch it, rewind, take notes, rewind. Everybody wanting to elevate should be studying this information. Every now and then you'll watch something and they drop a little something on there. You're like, whoa. I've actually had times where I said, wait a minute, what did he say? And I rewind it and pause it. I say, hold up, man, and I might actually go look something up online because he said something that triggered. And I'm like, wait a minute. And then they actually may have said something that was a real event in history. And then you realize that this show is talking about an actual historical event that really happened. But they never say that in the show, and so what they're telling you is This historical event is what this episode is dealing with. And so maybe it didn't happen like they said in history. Maybe the historical event was actually something greater, and this show is telling you another version that you may not have heard before. And what if it's telling you the actual version being presented to you as science fiction? Maybe it was really something as super fantastic as what this show is, projecting. Maybe it wasn't this little basic thing that's in your history book. Maybe it was something like this, and when you begin to think like that, it's like, whoa. So what if this is the reality and the history book is the bullshit? But what if this is real? What if they're actually telling you how it really went down? And when you start to think like that, this stuff, like I said, it takes on a whole new meaning, a whole new direction. Okay? So some of y'all might even be saying, man, he got all those white shows, dog. All these white boys on the show, man. Everybody trying to see all them white shows, man. Nah, I can't even look at that stuff, man. He need to put some black shows on there, man. Get some with some black actors on there. See? That's all that goofy, fake street talk, man. If you're that far down the intellectual ladder, then again, there's nothing I can tell you. There's no way to help you. And an intelligent person can learn from anyone in anything. All right. And if you still believe that your friends and enemies are color coded, then nobody can help you, because at that point you're so far behind that you don't even realize that the same studios who make these, as you might say, white shows, are also the same studios who make your black shows. Okay. Who did you think made Sanford & Son? Surely you didn't believe that some black millionaires got together in the 70s at the height of the black civil rights era and made up their own TV show and put it on the air all across the country. All right? All these so-called black shows are being developed in, as you might say, white studios and being distributed through white networks such as ABC, NBC, CBS, HBO, Warner Brothers, Universal Pictures, and so on. And so on, and so on. So get all that hate and I don't want to watch white shows bullshit out of your head, okay? When I said I didn't want to watch black shows, I'm talking about the foolishness, the goofy shit, talking crap on each other, talking about each other's clothes and hair for a half an hour in every episode, tripping over their own feet and just clowning around. I can't, there's nothing to connect to. That's nothing to watch. But with this, you're dealing with something that can take your mind and your imagination to higher levels. Skin color is irrelevant when you're talking about intelligence and knowledge and wisdom. All right? So I'm not dealing with the skin color. I'm talking about foolishness. All right? Now, if you're stuck on skin color and you can't watch them because you feel like you can't connect, you don't want to see the skin color, well, then don't watch it. It's not for you. None of this, you're not going to be able to relate to probably anything that I'm saying ever on any video. All right. So until black people start launching their own satellites and building their own production studios with their own billions and hiring their own actors and distributing their own shows through their own TV networks and everything you want, then everything you want to watch, bruh, is a white show. Okay. All of it is coming out of their studios. So you still, Sanford & Son is a white show. Good Times is a white show. All right, they just got black actors to play the parts. All right, and until you understand that, nothing is going to ever make sense to you in this world. Okay, so maybe you could be the first one to launch a satellite and actually start a black network and hire real, just black actors and everything is just black all the way around. Then you'll have a black show. But until you do that, stop the foolishness. Okay. So it's a shame that I would even have to run that down like that to that degree, but that's the only way to break through this garbage that so many have jam-packed into their brains. So yes, it's okay for you to watch these shows even though they may have very few black actors involved. Okay? In fact, you should be somewhat happy about that because you already see the garbage that the predominantly black shows are spewing. So while some of it is entertaining and funny, All right, I'll see a Martin clip and okay, laugh a little bit. Sanford, laugh a little bit, and then I'm off and going to do something else. I can't sit and focus on that. All right, none of that causes you to stop and consider what's going on in space, what's going on in another dimension. Is there anything or anyone from space here on Earth? There are tons of movies and TV shows that imply that this world is run, owned, and operated by non-humans. Okay, a theory which is explored in different TV series, again, such as another one called V, as in Victor, V, or in this case, Visitors. The movies Invaders from Mars, Mars Attacks, They Live, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, okay, on and on and on. See, so it is your willful self-exclusion from all things technical and scientific that has locked you into a state of stagnation, and in some cases a state of regression, meaning that you are going backwards. Okay, these are the people who you see who absolutely reject all things modern and futuristic. They just spend their time watching old Sanford and Martin reruns, listening to 50-year-old music, trying to hold on to the 60s and 70s until their last breath. Okay. Meanwhile, other people in the world are out there doing this.
The amazing drama you're about to see is a matter of human record. You may believe it or not, but the real people who lived this story, they believe it. They know. They took that one step beyond.
Alien intelligence that knows all. Reign of terror and disorder. But they talk about another kind of world, and where the best herbs grow. Marijuana.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is but a small part of what you'll witness tonight.
See, you're repeating the mistakes of our ancestors. When Africa was first invaded by Indo-Aryans in 1600 BCE, the black Egyptians were still fighting with bows and arrows and wooden clubs and leather shields and sharp rocks and slings. But the invaders showed up with bronze swords, bronze armor, bronze shield, riding on horse-drawn chariots. They cut through the primitive Egyptian armies like hot butter. Okay? And here we are once again in 2022, still disconnected from technology, while the rest of the world is hundreds of years past us, maybe thousands, who knows, you know, because we don't know what they're really working on. They may be thousands of years past us now. So I hope you can all see where our people have been dropping the ball, where we need to start in order to pick up again. You might believe, like our ancestors, that technology is evil and divides our people. Well, we're already divided and have been divided for over 5,000 years. Therefore, we don't have anything to lose by embracing technology at this point, but we have everything to gain. Are you tired of walking into a dead-end job in a hot warehouse or in some retail store on your feet all day? Well, then try to get certified as a computer technician, or maybe have the kind of maybe you have the kind of brain where you can get into computer programming. You could be working in a nice, clean, air-conditioned office all day, sipping coffee and writing new computer code. You could be doing video editing, audio editing, 3D animation, 2D animation, voiceovers, you know, voice acting, music, making your own music making. You know, if you like to look at any video game, you go to play a video game, all these games have music. They need somebody to make all that music. Okay? I mean, damn, man, the opportunities are endless. And everything I just named pays like anywhere from $18 an hour and upwards. You could be getting up over $50, $60, $80 an hour for high-level programmers. Okay? You want to change your life? Change your thinking. And then change your actions. And then you'll be shocked at the opportunities that begin to open up for you. Okay? If you do get into jobs doing this kind of thing, while you're in the office and you're sitting at your computer in the cubicle, guess what they're going to be talking about while you're in there? They're going to be talking about Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars. People on that level, this is what they watch. This is what they talk about. You want to get to that level, start watching it and start doing your homework. Because if you get there, you're going to need to be able to hang with your coworkers. If you can't, you don't want to go into a small, tight, closed environment like that and know nothing about the culture of science and technology. There's a culture behind it. It's not just going in and messing with, watching a show or working with a computer. It's a lifestyle that goes with the whole thing. It's not just the nice rims on the car. That whole car matches the rims. So you got to look at the whole thing, and then you got to look at the interior. It's the whole thing. So if you get into sci-fi, if you start watching these shows, you got to start getting into the lifestyle. If you get into get a job doing some of this stuff, this is the stuff they're going to be talking about in the office. Okay? It's funny because you can go and talk to almost anybody black and they won't know anything about Doctor Who or Sherlock Holmes with Benedict Cumberbatch. But you go talk to a lot of white people and you'll be surprised. They might not say anything about it, but if you ask them, how you know about that? You know about, you watched Sherlock Holmes? You watch Battlestar Galactica? They would be amazed because how do you know? Because they don't run commercials for this stuff on TV. And our people don't have a history of looking it up. And then you just blow them away if you start talking to them about this stuff. White people know this stuff, but they don't talk about it with you. So, you know, and why would they? If they feel like that you can't relate to it, why would they alienate themselves and make themselves a target for potential ridicule by talking to somebody about this kind of thing who has a high potential for coming back talking about, I don't watch all them white shows. That's our reputation, man. People look at us and they don't want to be exposed to that. So they just don't say nothing. But they know about it. You know, they watch it. This stuff didn't get #1 critically acclaimed all across America for the last 15 years because nobody's watching it. They're watching it and they know about it. They just don't talk to you about it. So if you start getting into it, you'll see some connections out there that you didn't even know were there. So yeah, there's another thing going on because you got a lot of people that's worried that technology is going to corrupt and destroy the world. All right, but if the right people are getting into this, then maybe you can use your skills and technology to develop new technology that can keep that from happening. Okay, so if the only people that have technology are the people that want to destroy the world, well, guess what? The world probably going to get destroyed at some point, because people that could have developed technology to stop it didn't even want to get off the sofa. All right, so maybe you could do something to help that. All right, so they might invent a car that's faster, and you might say, "Oh, that's too dangerous." Cars shouldn't be going 300 miles an hour. Okay, so then you invent new safety features with your skills and your technology. See, if they invent artificial intelligence that's getting smarter and smarter and threatens to wipe out the human race, then you invent artificial intelligent police that warns you ahead of time when the other artificial intelligence is going in the wrong direction, and your AI, artificial intelligence, can then stop their AI and shut it down. Okay, so instead of just complaining about the problem, do something about it, and welcome to the world of sci-fi. Peace.